Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek Podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, people out in the internet? Welcome to the Get Geek Podcast. What's going on, y'all? I am Jose.
This is Wolfie.
AJ.
Eli.
And I am
What's up, crew? And this week we are going to discuss a little movie that just came out over the weekend. A neat little movie, a neat little indie production that came out that some of you might be familiar with, called Justice League, the Zack Snyder Justice League, the Snyder Cut, that has been called for a long time by a huge contingent of fans. But before we get to that, of course, we're going to do all of our disclaimers that you guys have heard ad nauseum every single week. We are recording remotely, so if there are any audio issues, artifacts, other problems, or you have any other feedback for us with the podcast crew, please send us some feedback. Let us know that there's something going on with the audio or anything else, and we will do our best to improve upon it and make it better and better and better and better. As well, speaking of your favorite podcast, the best way to support your favorite podcast crew is to like, rate, share, and subscribe to your favorite podcast. You know the spiel. We are available on all your favorite podcast platforms where all your favorite podcasts are sold. So support us, please. If you like the content that we put out, let us know any way that you can and share it and spread it. Spread the love. That's the best thing that you can do for us and indeed for the world. So, let's take it from there. Wolfie, you want to guide us through this magical conversation, sir?
Well, I wanted to because the movie came out in parts, and we are a group of 5. Not 6, unfortunately, not like the Justice League, but we could do this in parts, and I kind of want to take a little bit of a round table and give everyone a kind of chance to give me your first impressions, just because we haven't, I think a couple of us have chatted through Telegram. By the way, awesome app to have group discussions, polls, and all that stuff, very similar to WhatsApp. You guys should check it out. I want to kind of get everyone's quick thoughts, and I want to start with AJ. What did you think about first impressions of the film and the whole nine?
So, the film. It was great. It really was phenomenal. There are some scenes that were in this film that seriously make me question Joss Whedon's directing ability. And I just the whole just to give you an idea of how mind boggled I am. There is an awesome sequence with Superman, Aquaman, and the Flash when he gets revived. How and why? What possessed you to take that out? Not only was that an awesome fight scene, but the throwback between those two, I don't even know. I don't even know. But okay, so you can tell that I like it already. But I'll save this last point for the very end of the discussion, I guess. There is one thing that's holding me back from appreciating it that much more. So I'll leave you guys.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
Jose?
My thoughts on the movie, to keep it brief, are, it's obviously better than Joss Whedon's version. It's 100 times better. But to me, that doesn't say enough. I think the issue I have with the movie I think the issue that most people have is that, which I understand why he did it, is that it's just a little bit too long. I think the obvious reason why he did that is he just wanted to show everybody all the cool stuff he did and all the cool footage and all the great stuff and Easter eggs. I get it. But if you trim about an hour off that movie, you turn it from something that's good, that I'm not super excited to rewatch, into something that really could have been remarkable. And to me, it would have been so remarkable that, now it's almost hard for DC not to justify taking Zack Snyder's vision and continuing it. I think even with the movie as is, but I think it would have been an absolutely slam dunk decision if the movie were just a little bit better in a few ways. So yeah, that's my general thoughts about it without giving anything else away.
Okay, I can appreciate that. Eli?
You know,
Oh man.
no, 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 no,
His
no, no.
decorum.
Don't get
His
the wrong.
decorum.
No, no, don't get the wrong idea. Don't get the wrong idea. You guys already know that I'm biased since I'm mainly a Marvel fan, but I will give credit where credit is due. It did a phenomenal job of its storytelling. The only thing I hate is I'm pretty sure it's the same as AJ, and yeah, that's it's
Another
just
cliffhanger.
it's awesome, super.
So you enjoyed it.
I
You
enjoyed
enjoyed it, but you have some reservations.
Yeah, just one.
Okay, just
Wow,
one.
okay.
Okay. Um, I personally, I think that the film was. It's hard to even call it a film because of like how it was presented, but I think that the film was great to show the representation of like Snyder's vision for the entire DC universe. And while I understand Jose's point, and we'll get into this in a moment, I also think that like this was Snyder saying, "Well, this is everything you could have had, so I'm gonna throw it all out there." Not leaving anything off the table so that you can see what the universe would have been like. Sure, there's a lot that I think that could have been trimmed. But with that being said, I think that the film was pretty good. I really wanted to say great, but there's just too many little things that I didn't that I take issue with. One in particular, with one of the characters. But outside of that, I also think that like some of the stuff that was left out of the Whedon cut, I think justifies Whedon getting put into prison because I don't understand how he made some of these cutting room decisions. He basically wasted WB's money to reshoot
Lock
a
him up.
worse movie. So yeah, I don't understand how he did some things. I would actually want an investigation into his thought processors. Like I want like a 9/11 commission. I
Dang.
want like a Snyder cut commission on like what the heck
You and Ray
was
Fisher
Whedon
both,
thinking.
and oh
So,
Lord, will I talk about that to some length.
oh
I
god.
promise.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think it was great. I do think it was good. I think it was borderline great. But there's a lot still missing. But yeah, I'm on board for returning to the Snyderverse. So, well,
So I'm gonna start mine with a caveat up top because I am a big fan of Zack Snyder's films. I like Dawn of the Dead. I love 300. Um, the Watchmen movie, I thought the extended version was phenomenal. The theatrical, it had some issues to it. Um, Man of Steel is one of my favorite superhero movies. I won't say of all time, but it's definitely up there. I love the way he deconstructed Superman in that one, and you know, Batman versus Superman again. The extended version is great. I still can't get away from the Martha moment in that movie, but whatever. Um, this movie here is about, at least in my opinion, as close to a I'm struggling to find out. It's a superhero movie that wants to not be a superhero movie, but yet draws so much from the comic books, and it's like you're watching a comic book on the screen. And for that, I love Zack Snyder because, he's slavish almost to the point of just taking the comic page and putting it on screen. Like you guys said, what he did to Ray Fisher is criminal, but again with Flash and Aquaman, they were so much better in this film. I don't understand why Whedon chose to make, especially Aquaman, a surfer dude in his film. It makes no sense. Um, one of the things I do say is that it's a little bit too long, especially the epilogue. The epilogue I could have seen as more of a special, extra credits type thing where it's just like, here's some goodies that you can see afterwards. I don't see how this would have worked as a theatrical film, because you can't really cut it up the way it's presented. And the last thing I will say about it is that I find it interesting with the fans on this, because after Man of Steel and especially after BVS, the din was so loud where they wanted to get rid of Zack Snyder, especially in his treatment of Superman and stuff. And it made it very easy for WB to cut the ties with him. And I find it interesting. Here we're sitting almost 5 years afterwards, and 4 years. And the thing is, Zack Snyder is the best thing since sliced bread. I just find it interesting, the dichotomy of how fans quickly turn on a pivot where they hate the guy, and now all of a sudden he could do no wrong. So that's one of my biggest takeaways from the Snyder cut is this shouldn't exist at all, but the fans willed it, and these are the same fans that wanted Zack Snyder his head on a pike. So, I'll that's where I'm at with that.
It's really interesting you say that. I think that like that's a whole separate conversation. I think we actually need to have about um the volatility of fandoms, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's DC, Marvel, or
Star
Star
Wars,
Wars. Star Wars, very much so.
especially.
Like that's a whole separate
It's creeping into
conversation. But
video
I think
games,
that like you're absolutely
everything.
right about this, because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, if you like, we could have had this, 5 years ago. We could have, DC could have been in a completely different place. Honestly, I
Yeah.
feel like this is one of those perfect situations that Flashpoint could have corrected, right? You know what I mean? Like, go back in time, make sure that, like, whatever didn't happen, so that we can continue with the Snyderverse, and then DC may be in a whole different area ballpark when it comes to comparing the DCEU versus the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well,
And can I just say one thing? It's interesting to note that the two films that the directors consulted Snyder on were Aquaman and Wonder Woman, which are far superior films than some of the DC movies that we've seen since. I mean, Suicide Squad was a complete another mess. WW84, pure garbage. The only one that's the
oh my
outlier
God.
is Shazam, right? And listen, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? It, to me, I find it very, very interesting that the two films that Snyder collaborated on after Justice League, which it would be Wonder Woman and I'm sorry, Aquaman. I'm sorry,
Aquaman.
I lost my train of thought there. Wonder Woman and Aquaman are far, far and away vastly superior films than the other movies that we've seen. And I know you're going to find offense to this, Wolfie, but WW84 is a piece of steaming garbage in a flaming in a
Oh
flaming
my God.
in a
I don't.
flaming bin. You know what I'm saying?
Ah.
Um, and Suicide Squad was a mess. Um, Shazam is the outlier, obviously, out of all of them, because it was an enjoyable film, but it's a different film. It didn't really reside in the DCEU, and so like I said, really really find it interesting. If we had just kind of kept on pace with the Snyderverse, that I think this would have paid off in a lot of really really good ways. Because like I said, Wonder Woman and Aquaman were really good films, and guess what? They were part of the Snyderverse, and they actually Jenkins and James Wan, they went to Snyder and say, "Hey, what do you think? How do we go about this?" They came out to they were great films. So I mean that's just what I got to say about that.
I agree with you on most of what you said. I don't necessarily agree with you on WW84. However,
Garbage.
I don't think that it was garbage for what it was, but I do want to say this before we get into the discussion of the different characters in this, the different parts of this film.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say this, that to me is my takeaway, that I guess maybe I should add to my thought earlier, is that this was a better Wonder Woman movie than WW84. But to
Oh
me, it was
yeah,
also a better Aquaman movie than Aquaman. I
right.
think that
And
Aquaman was portrayed better. I think Wonder Woman was portrayed better.
yeah,
And these are films that this was all done 5 years ago,
I
years
totally agree
before
with
those
that.
films.
I totally agree with that. But at the same time, Aquaman and Wonder Woman were not by any stretch of the imagination bad films. They were really, really good. Yes, this was more a better representation because you got the guy who
Right.
has that
Absolutely. Had the
vision
vision. Yeah.
doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's another thing that the MCU does really, really well. Just to sidestep real, they have one guy, one vision. DC doesn't
hmm
have that. They had it with Snyder, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they took it away.
They just didn't trust him. They
Right?
just didn't
Exactly.
trust him. I want to get into discussion with the characters, and I want to start with what I perceive as the main character of the film, or what should have been the main character of the film,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think that he ended up being the main character, and that's Batman.
Hmm.
My biggest issue that I had with the
Interesting.
film, is that Batman was rudimentary at best. He was. I felt like the film did Superman justice, like comparing Snyder Cut versus Whedon. And I want
Oh,
everybody to chime in on
Superman
this,
was
but I thought,
fantastic.
right, I think Superman was better. Cyborg a billion times better. We're gonna get into Cyborg because I think he's gonna be the meat of this discussion.
Can I say
Um,
something?
yeah,
When you said the main character, I swore for a second you were going to say that Ray Fisher's character, Cyborg, was going to be the guy that you were talking about.
I think that the thing is that, like, I believe that, and again, we'll talk about this when we get to Cyborg, but I think that he became the main character, so to speak, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he was intended to be. This is a film that started with Batman's vision of creating the JLA and ended with Batman's vision of what he sees the future of the JLA, and it's all about, like, Batman trying to right the wrongs, but I don't think that it was shown properly. But like
Okay.
I said, this is better. Superman was done justice. Cyborg was done justice. Wonder Woman was much better. Aquaman was a billion times better than the fool that Whedon made him look like,
Yeah.
right? And Flash was insanely better, right? But Batman, I think, was worse. Jose, what do you think?
I'll answer that by asking you guys a question. What part in the movie do you guys remember where Batman did something really friggin' cool?
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
I think you can make a case that Batman is actually the weakest character in this film,
Yeah.
in both films, to be honest.
But,
You know.
I agree with you there, but he still had his moment.
Well, his moment was bringing the group
The
together.
That was
Batmobile.
kind of lame, though.
Right, but
With the
see,
Yeah.
tank, right?
all right, so here's the thing, no. He's talking about,
Oh
like, the
yeah.
Batmobile scene where, like, where he goes in and he's, like, basically he's the tip of the spear for the JLA's entrance into the main attack.
Which is
But
crazy.
here's the thing: every single one of the characters had their introduction moment, right? Every single one of the characters had, like, something cool that introduced them as Aquaman. When he got introduced as Aquaman, not as Arthur Curry, but as Aquaman, when he came through to save the day. When Wonder Woman was introduced, when Cyborg was introduced, when the Flash was introduced, they all had their moment. Batman didn't get his moment until the very end in the Batmobile scene, really,
Yeah.
and he was, and for me, I felt like the Batman in JLA is the
Yeah.
he's the brains of the operation. He's the smart man. He's the one that, like, does everything based on calculations.
Yeah.
In this one, he did everything based on faith, which is so uncharacteristic. So
I see
that's how
what
I
you
I feel
mean,
about Batman.
It's like
go ahead,
he
Eli.
got.
Go ahead. Mhm.
Oh, okay. It's like he got replaced twice by Flash and then Cyborg. Honestly, because he didn't even really do much other than like his tactical stuff, which I do agree with you there. It came like like to the end of
Yeah.
the movie.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's my issue,
well-
actually, because Batman's moments. All right, so Batman is supposed to be, as we all know, and as we're all kind of waiting for in live action form, we're waiting for a Batman that has, like, the tactics, the strategy. He's got a plan that, like, is well beyond what anybody else in the Justice League can come up with, and that's why he's Batman. That's why he's kind of the leader. Superman's like the face, and he's the leader, right? Because he comes up with all the plans. Where was the moment in this movie where he did something that didn't involve the Batmobile, the Bat Tank, or guns? Which Batman isn't really like.
Or guns,
Like, he just grabbed
exactly.
alien guns and is like,
Exactly.
okay, he's the alien gun
Oh
master.
my God.
Not really that cool. Where's Batman using like some cool gadget to maybe disable some of the parademons, or to like stop, to actually even like physically take on Steppenwolf? He uses weapons to take on Darkseid in the freaking comics, for Christ's sakes. Like, he's got to be able to have something that he can bring to this that he thought up.
He wasn't even the one. He wasn't even the one that really came up with the plan to resurrect Superman. He just kind of jumped on the boat and like egged everyone on. It would have been one thing. Like, I think that like they did a better job in the Whedon cut to show that like Bruce Wayne was the one that came up with that plan, and this one they kind of took that away from him. So he doesn't even have that where he came up with this crazy idea that actually worked.
Well,
You know what I mean?
let me just say this. It's interesting that the characters that we see the least, or they're the least important to the story, are characters that we've seen before. Because Superman, we didn't see him until almost the third hour of the movie, right? He had,
Right.
if you look at it, Superman had a very, very small part in this movie. He just shows up in like the last 30 minutes and just
Well,
utterly
other than the
wrecks
first
stuff.
4 minutes of
Batman
him
is
screaming,
kind of
there's
Batman,
that too. But
right. But Batman also has a similar thing, and I think, and maybe you guys could either agree or disagree with this. Batman already had his introduction. He had his introduction in BVS. You had to make enough space, especially in this movie, to introduce Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash,
Yeah.
and Cyborg. And I think that's why you have more of a focus on those characters, and both Batman and Superman, which are known quantities, even though Wonder Woman did show up in BVS, but everybody knows Batman.
I understand
Everybody
that.
knows Superman.
I understand that.
It's
But
the other four that you really, really have to flesh out in this movie, and that's the only. And I'm not excusing it, because everybody wants to see more Batman.
right, but here's the
But
thing.
okay,
Here's the thing. You can't say that like you don't have that time when you're also not making any kind of, you're not leaving anything on the table. It's a 4 hour film, so you have the time to flesh them out, and you could have just done you could have just done a simple, you know, a simple thing. Like, you could have left even just a clip that was in the Whedon cut of Batman early with on the roof with one of the paratroopers or whatever.
yeah, I
You know what
forgot
I mean?
about
Like,
that one.
because you can at least like show him
Yeah.
in the
oh, yeah,
suit being Batman
fights it
early
at the
on,
beginning,
and
right?
then
Yeah,
go
yeah.
into Bruce Wayne.
With the dude from
So
Mindhunter.
yeah, exactly. Eli?
Yeah, I do agree with you there, but I think I know it's gonna, but I think that Batman was mainly gonna be intended for the second part of the movie. Like, I get the
Yeah,
because that's where you really get into
the
the whole conflict between
and
yeah.
just to bounce off of what Eli's saying, there was an event in Dallas that started in March 6th, and there in that exhibit, they had screenshots and screenplay and storyboards of what Justice League 2 and Justice League 2A was supposed to be about, and Batman did play a bigger role in those movies. So
Yeah, but I mean, I see where you're coming from, but then again, it's this is what happens when you get a director's vision cut off, right? And I'm just gonna bounce this off to
Yeah.
Jose.
I want to piggyback on Walt's point actually about what was to come for Batman. And kind of why I, to a certain extent, understood that Batman didn't get the spotlight in this movie, even though he still needed to do more than he did, in my opinion, and I think in Wolfie's opinion as well.
Yeah.
Is that, and this is a spoiler for a movie that's never going to come out, most likely, but and it probably won't come out in this form because of this spoiler. Really, everybody knows that Batman was intended to be the sacrifice in the third Justice League movie, whether that was 2A or whatever else. He was going to die. Yeah, he was going to
yeah, it was
die
2A
fighting Darkseid, and he was going to make the sacrifice. Yeah,
and
and he was
killing
going to make the
Darkseid.
sacrifice that Superman made originally. He was going to go ahead and lay down on the grenade, so to speak. And this is sort of unrelated, but another thing that they were going to do is they were going to make Superman and Lois Lane's son, which was hinted at in this movie, he was going to be the new Batman. Yeah,
Right.
he's going to be the
Little
new
Easter
Batman
egg.
Yeah.
in this storyline.
And believe it or not, the original script had the kid being Batman's son,
Oh,
and he changed it. They
Yeah.
changed it
Mhm.
afterwards.
Mm.
You know, originally Batman and Lois were going to get together during the time that Superman was gone, and that was going to be kind of like a
What?
rift.
Yeah,
It's gonna be like a Pearl
Damian
Harbor
Wayne.
moment.
Yeah, exactly.
For Ben Affleck all over again.
Exactly. But you know, in true WB, you know, they weren't crazy about that. So
Yeah.
it did become that it was
Jerks.
Superman's son, a depowered Superman's son that was going to be the new Batman.
That's interesting. That would have been weird.
Yeah.
I just want to make just one point, one more point before we move on. It's just, again, my thing was with the whole Batman thing is that, like, I think that Ben Affleck had the chops to play a good Batman. I think that he was so good as Batman in BVS, even though BVS had a lot of issues in general. The Batman portions of BVS to me were really, really great. And I think that you kind of, like, if I'm comparing either the Whedon cut or the Snyder cut to BVS, the two Batmans just are not the same. And I think that we got more or something similar to the Superman in Man of Steel or, you know, BVS, but we didn't get the Batman
Mhm.
that we got from BVS. I feel like it's like, you know, like that's a
I don't
letdown
think
for
Snyder
me. You know what I mean?
or Whedon gave
You know,
us
when it comes,
the full potential of Batfleck, personally.
yeah, right. So then, like, so
Yeah, not yet.
I don't know. I just think that you didn't do justice to him and stuff like that.
Can I say one thing? Watching the epilogue, who here wants to see a Batman versus Joker film?
I do
Especially
not.
at the
Oh
you didn't
man,
like that scene at the very end?
I did not. I did not. I
Wow.
hated it. I hated it.
I am
I
surprised.
hated it. You want to know why I hated it?
Why?
Because Bruce Wayne and Batman are never that. So, like, there's a difference between being, you know, like, emotional and being lost. He looks so, like, lost in his conversation with, like, the Joker, that the Joker can, like, poke at Batman. Obviously, that's what he does. He drives Batman crazy, but never to the point where he makes Batman or Bruce Wayne
It's-
feel weak and
So
feel like, I don't know,
it,
like, to me, it just looks weak.
but
And I really don't like Jared Leto as Joker.
okay, but here's what it is, and this is gonna go back to what me and Jose were talking about. There's a reason why he's acting this way, and again, it all stems to this movie that we're never ever going to see, you know, and it all deals with Lois because you see he's prodding and prodding and poking at him, especially with
Yeah.
Lois. There
Yeah.
are things that were supposed to happen in Justice League 2 and Justice League 2A that if the audience in general, if we did see that movie, that conversation would make a lot more sense. And I think it'll kind of make you change your
Super
mind on
fast
that
point
thing.
about just to piggyback on what Walt said and what Wolfie said, I should say. So I didn't love Jared Leto. I thought he was a lot better than he was in Suicide Squad. I still think the laugh is freaking terrible. But what I did like, what I did like
We'll give you
from
that.
this movie, the moment that I did like that explains what Walt is talking about is that line that he delivers to Batman that I think is the best line that Jared Leto delivers in this movie, where he says, "How many people have died because you don't have the courage to just let yourself die?" I think that's the reason that
Mhm.
poking kind of works on Batman.
Yeah,
That line
exactly.
was
Yes.
absolutely amazing. I just
understand.
don't like the
Mhm.
delivery.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go from what I think was, you know, a terrible portrayal of Batman to now the you know, kind of justice, right? Like, we have legitimate justice being done in a few different ways for all the other characters. And I wanted to start with Superman. Just because we got the Superman that was intended, that was super cool, super badass. And I'm gonna throw this one over to AJ, because AJ is a DC god over here, and I want to know what he thought of Superman's portrayal.
It was, I can't stress it enough. It was infinitely better. Like
So good. It was so good.
the fight at the memorial alone, like my favorite part out of that whole thing has to be when Superman is very slowly flying over to Batman, and the Justice League or the Proto Justice League is like throwing themselves at him, and he's just like, "Yeah, no, just get out of the way."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta quickly say that like I feel like they did probably the best job of showing Superman as a god than any other Superman iteration
Yeah.
in this film.
I
Like just the way that he like, went at Steppenwolf and all, like it just looked like so godly.
and you know what else? I think this movie did the best job of showing Superman as a man also. And especially with all the other characters, maybe with the exception of Ray Fisher, but he had some of the most emotional moments in the film, and so like you said, they go from this godlike character, which they did a great and phenomenal job of showing him, but they also showed the human side of Clark Kent, especially that moment that he had both with Lois and Martha in the cornfield. That I love how they did both in the same film, and they were both like some of the high points of the film as well.
I mean, I got to say, Superman. So Superman, I don't think Superman was great. I think the characterization was much better again than the Whedon version. I think there were higher emotional moments. I don't think they hit super hard because I don't think he has great chemistry with Amy Adams. I got to say, and that's partially because I don't think they write Lois Lane very well. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a lot to do. And I think that bothers me a little bit. But what I did love is this is the first time that you've ever seen, and we actually no, not the first time, but it's done much better in this one, that you've ever seen Superman have fun kicking somebody's butt, which Superman does all the time in the comics, right? When he knows he can beat somebody, he's not like a jerk about it, but he does have a little fun with it. He does taunt. It's almost like the opposite of One Punch Man, where he's so bored. Superman has fun. As long as he knows nobody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And he does that in this movie. And I think that's great. That moment with Steppenwolf trying to hit him with his axe and him just blocking it with his shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just blowing it cold.
Not impressed.
It was just like
cool.
You're not.
Cool.
It was like you're not a god.
That was
this
cool
is a god
stuff at the end. I thought it was much better. But I will say I didn't understand the choice, even though it was very cool for him to wear the black suit. I didn't get it in this movie. I just thought it looked cool.
Well, to begin with, that's just generally the suit he uses.
Right,
when
but
he's
in the comic, it has a purpose, right? The black suit. It's not just a cool suit. It helps him regenerate his power, which they maybe hint at in this movie, but they don't give us an explicit reason, which I think would have made the black suit hit a little harder.
Only the nerds know.
Yes.
Only the nerds know, right? Now, I'm not a DC or Superman nerd, but I do believe that he regenerates his power by like soaking up the power of the sun.
But the
right?
black suit helps him
up,
absorb
right?
the power of the sun faster because it's black, I guess.
Because it's black,
right? Because it's black, which is why as soon as he put on the suit, he flew up right into the side of the sun. It makes sense. Even though it wasn't explicitly explained, it makes sense.
I'm missing the mullet.
I do. I do have to say,
God! That was terrible.
I loved
terrible.
all the different Superman costumes that popped up in the ship, including the Kryptonian like Zod-like armor that they showed before he chose the black suit.
Exactly.
Yes, cool.
I do like that moment. That was one of those moments. See, that's the thing. Like that was one of those moments for me from the Superman standpoint, where like he's like going through basically his own history. He's like walking through all these like costumes they're opening up. It's like the ship was recognizing that he's there. They're opening up to him. So hey, this is who you are. Accept it, embrace it. And he sees the black suit and he's like, "Ooh, I haven't seen this one. Let me put this one on."
It reminded me.
You know what I mean? It was like,
It reminded me of that thing in Batman where it's like, does this come in black?
Cool. Yeah, with the audio of Jor-El and of Pa Kent.
Oh, that was so great. That was so
intercut.
Oh, so good. Being overplayed with like Jor-El and
what's his first name?
And Papa Kent. You know what I mean? I think
Jonathan.
like, it was so cool to see both of his fathers and the wisdom being imparted into him. It's like I almost feel like this is the moment. Like that moment was when he finally,
fully
became Superman and Clark Kent fully without like the weight of the world on his shoulders. Which is why I think
which is why it would have led to something great with the sequels when he broke down and became evil Superman. I think this was a great setup for that. And better than Batman's setup.
And that's why I've always thought that Snyder was deconstructing Superman to build him back up to what we know Superman to be, and I think the fans just couldn't hold on long enough to
Zack
see
Snyder
that.
also
you
loves
know?
the Injustice video games. I think we have to say that too, because he's definitely influenced by it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, yeah, like
there's
honestly,
there's also obviously, not only did they make Superman so much better, they did make, well, not even like make Superman so much better. This next character, he was already made super cool. They just cut him out. I don't understand how this happened.
Horrible.
yeah.
And obviously we were talking about Cyborg, Ray Fisher's Cyborg, and I want to know if what Eli thought about Cyborg. This to me is super probably the most important part of this podcast is whether Eli thought Cyborg was corny or not.
What?
I agree.
No, he.
I just need to know. This is the thing. I was so afraid. I was so afraid that like Eli would be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Cyborg was
like
just corny.
is the stuff that they
No.
added like so much better than the junk we got in the Whedon cut? I mean, I'm kind of leading you with that question, but
Way.
There was no junk in the Whedon cut because he wasn't even in the Whedon cut.
Yeah,
It's
seriously.
like the most important aspect of this team,
Yeah.
especially given who they're fighting.
The most
Yeah.
important aspect of this story.
Yeah.
He
So Eli,
drives
Eli,
everything.
what did you think?
Go Eli.
I
Corny.
thought
Corny.
that
Corny.
he was awesome. He was honestly awesome. His importance
All right.
was
Freaking finally.
shown.
Can we
Let's
mark this? Yes, we
Yes,
need to
let's
mark
mark
this
this.
right
We need
here.
to timestamp this. Okay, we need to make sure that like for the first time ever, he did not have a corny opinion about anything specifically. Eli,
Mhm.
welcome to adulthood.
I just gave him a high five.
So, what Eli? What was your favorite part with Cyborg? What do you think what was the best parts of it?
I think there were so many good parts. I don't know. Probably like when he was like inside like the brain thing where he was like
Oh, when he was
He was
separating
inside
the
when he
mother
was in
his own
boxes.
head,
yeah, because
kind of, or-
honestly,
Oh no. Okay.
yeah,
Go ahead.
No, when he was in the Unity,
Mhm.
Yeah, he was in it.
in like the yeah.
the 3 mother boxes.
Yeah, because I think that just really showed how they made a character evolve in one movie, which generally it takes like at least a couple of movies. So I just found that completely amazing, and his importance, like I said, really showed in this movie. He played a huge role, and he's one of my favorite characters from the DC
Yes.
universe.
Booyah!
See, I have to agree that the way that they characterized him in this movie is incredible. One of my favorite parts was when he was discovering the depth of his powers. I thought that was the best way I've seen any animated or live medium show you how Cyborg's powers work. It was so cool to see him in his head. That scene that we saw in the trailer where he like launches the nukes with the wave of a hand, the scene where he gives that woman like the money, the poor woman, because he feels sorry for her and he can control the banking systems,
Mhm.
like all that stuff. I thought that was great. And I'm not saying he's necessarily better than these two characters rolled together, but I thought his introduction in this movie, the way that Zack Snyder handled it, was better than Spider-Man and Black Panther and Civil War put together. The way that he introduced Ray Fisher's Cyborg in this movie. And I think we've already kind of said it. It's criminal that Joss Whedon cut this out of the movie. Even if you took some of this material, and of course, like his interactions with his father, Silas, also are much better. In the Whedon cut, they're again basically non-existent. I kind of hated the character Silas in the Whedon cut. He seemed like just more of a selfish jerk. He is more of a father figure to him in this one, even if it's a conflicted one. I thought it was great. And I mean, I think I didn't even know that Ray Fisher could act. I've never seen him in anything besides this.
He was
He's
so
amazing.
good.
He's
He
an
was
amazing
so
actor.
good.
I really think he's the best actor in
He
this
is.
movie. Like at least maybe not
Yeah,
all around,
yeah.
but at
I
least
think
in
so.
this movie, his performance absolutely outshines everybody else.
I would go as far as to say that he definitely like went above and beyond
Yeah.
all the entire cast when it came to acting.
He did.
Personally, I think that like Ezra Miller kind of came in
Yeah,
the
he did
close
great, too.
second when it came
Mhm.
to like acting chops, you know. But he definitely like he was able to convey emotion, all a range of emotions, anger, sorrow,
Angst.
accomplishment, acceptance, you know. And going to your point about Silas, I think that like they did an amazing job of showing that one little storyline of like the son that's just not forgiving the dad for any of his past sins, and the father just always trying, even with just a recorder, and Victor Cyborg just giving up on that by crushing the recorder, and then after the death, in that moment realizing that, oh my god, I'm not gonna have a chance to actually have a relationship now with him, even though we didn't see him wanting that at all throughout the film. Like, just in that moment, seeing that emotion, and then seeing him like remake the recorder and listening to his father's voice as his father, and the advice. I believe we got that in the epilogue. I think that right there was probably one of the most powerful scenes in the entire
interesting
film.
thing for me. Oh, I'm sorry. And then I think AJ wanted to say something was mentioned, and I'm sorry. I really want to make this quick point to put back on that.
Oh well, no, you guys kind of covered
Did
it
we?
already,
Okay.
so it's all good.
I'm sorry. The Silas thing. I want to talk about that scene very quick because I thought that it was executed really well. My only gripe is I think that the death was too early, and I think it was a little wasted of Silas. Because I feel like it was a weird contrivance
Really?
that he would understand that what they would need is to be able to find that thing. Like, I kind of get it, but like that he would immediately be like, all right, the best thing that I can do is shoot this thing with a laser right now and kill myself so that they could get the heat of it and the radiation of it and detect it later using Batman's equipment to find this mother box a little bit later. I thought it was slightly contrived, and I thought it would have been really, really cool to see him slightly rebuild his relationship a little bit more, Victor and Silas, and then kill him off in the second movie in some really interesting way. He's still connected to the mother box. The mother box is still there. Maybe he could be somebody that kind of helps with the anti-life equation and the understanding of that, since he understands these kind of objects. I mean, it wasn't a bad scene, but I think it would have been better if they had pushed that death back a little bit. Just my thoughts.
Interesting.
Okay.
What? I think we were gonna throw it to someone, and then like that someone
Well,
just
AJ
like disappeared off
changed
the
his
face of the
mind.
planet.
Yeah. AJ did change his mind. So
Okay, so I don't want to harp on it. I think that the placement of the death was perfectly fine, because it translated to the third act. Essentially, his death was the end of the second act, and it gave us the driving motivation for Cyborg to actually try to save the planet.
Yeah.
So
and willing to sacrifice himself to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And not just, and the other thing too is that I do like how like they made it not a I got killed by Steppenwolf or by the mother box. It's a actual sacrifice. It could have easily been like, oh my god, this whole thing ended up killing my dad, now I gotta kill Steppenwolf because of that. No, it's that his dad chose the sacrifice, chose the higher purpose to now be the example for Cyborg. So I like how they did that.
I agree.
So so I do want to talk about, like, just really quickly on the Cyborg Whedon relationship. It's a little bit controversial. There's stuff going on, I think, legally, right? Like, is
I
there
don't
some
think it's
sort of legal stuff
legal. I
going
think
on
it's
between them?
internal company stuff. I think he's been pushing for Joss Whedon to be investigated, and I think somebody at WB is also alleging they blocked. Yeah,
Walter
Walter Hamada.
Hamada.
He's calling for him to be taken. To resign, because he says that he blocked the investigation. He was one of the people that enabled Joss Whedon to kind of cut him out the movie and all this other stuff.
Because the thing is, like, to be honest with you, it really doesn't make sense when the majority of his scenes were already shot. How do you cut out such good material? Like, if you think about it, his material was cut out for the story that made absolutely no sense in the Whedon cut, with the family
Russian family.
It does
the
feel
Russian
it feels
family.
personal.
You know what I mean? Like, none of that makes
it almost,
sense. That's what I'm saying. That's the issue that I have. Like, like, now that I see, like, it's one of those things where, like, an actor, like, I'm not saying that I don't know any actors. I'm not in the acting business, but like, you have like a certain assumption from like acting stereotypes that, let's say an actor's scenes get cut and they kind of take it personal and this, that, and the other. And you just maybe never really know how good the scenes were. We finally got to see the proof of how good his scenes were and he has every right to be upset as he is.
This is not
Like,
a,
it just really makes no
allegations.
sense.
it's not a good look for Whedon.
It's not good for. I don't see how he could be hired by anyone at this point.
and you know what? It opened up the
Personally.
floodgates because now everybody from anybody from Buffy and Angel and
Right.
Avengers in between,
saying the same
they're all
thing.
coming out.
Yes.
So
Really?
oh yeah, absolutely.
wow.
So this is not a good look. It's like what Wolfie said. You hear about it, but then to actually see it, I mean, this
Yeah.
you could probably use this as evidence in his trial if
I don't
there
know if
ever
there
was
would-
one,
well,
because
No.
clearly,
I mean, he's
No, I
being
know,
tried
I
in the court of the public
yeah,
opinion.
right, exactly.
So
There's never going to be an actual trial, but I'm kind of like putting it out there. But it's like you see this and you have to say, dude, something has to be personal about this, because
Yeah.
every other character got their day except
Yeah.
for you. What
Yeah,
exactly
I mean,
happened?
I feel like
Yeah.
this is just theorizing, and if these allegations against Joss Whedon all prove to be false, I'll be the first person to apologize publicly on the podcast and say, like, hey, everybody, Joss Whedon is totally cool. Leave the man alone. But it almost seems like Ray Fisher is one of the people that became most resistant to Joss Whedon's kind of like being a jerk on set. Maybe because he didn't have much to lose. He wasn't super famous yet. I really don't know. And maybe that's why Joss Whedon cut out his scenes, because he's like, this guy's resistant to what I want, and he's talking back to me. Nobody else does that. I'm going to take his scenes out of the movie just because, even though they were gold. Because, again, like, there's a lot of other good scenes in the movie that Zack Snyder added, but there's by far more great material that he removed featuring Cyborg. There's just a huge amount.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so another character that they made a ton better, just in the representation. I do feel like I need to kind of go back and actually suffer and watch the Whedon cut just to kind of see the comparison.
Oh god.
But Wonder Woman, I think, is another character that again just got like made and displayed so much better. One thing that I will say is I think that Wonder Woman, that this was a better version of Wonder Woman than what we saw in WW84. But another thing is that I actually think that WW84 is better because of the Snyderverse,
What?
the Snyder cut. Hold on, hear me out. Coming out at this time, because now, see, I don't see WW84 coming out after JLA. I look at this as WW84, the precursor to the Snyder Cut. Because look at this one. In this film, she doesn't have the burden, of her past lover. She's accepted. She looks way more super. She looks way more, just more coming into herself and stuff like that. And I feel like it's almost like WW84 kind of sets up the Wonder Woman in this film, even though this film technically came out, 5 years ago.
Ugh.
So
I kind of agree with you there, honestly.
No.
it really does.
You're
Look, I'm
banned from the
serious.
house.
It makes sense.
Get out.
No, what?
Get out.
No.
You're banned from the
I'm
house.
serious. You're gonna tell me that it doesn't make sense? Like if obviously if the Whedon cut never came out and we saw WW84, it's a mediocre film, maybe one that you hate, but it sets up the Wonder Woman in this film.
Listen, I can watch the Snyder cut and not watch WW84 at all, and I'll still be fine with what we see over here. I don't need one.
Absolutely,
Wonder,
absolutely.
But Wonder Woman
Absolutely.
84, it exists to serve no purpose whatsoever. There is
It
nothing. There
does.
is nothing
It
there
does.
that I find compelling enough to say, you know what? Now, when I watch any future iteration of Wonder Woman, now it makes sense. There is nothing there. You could give me just the original Wonder Woman, and it still makes sense with the character that we saw in this 4-hour movie. You give me WW84, that does nothing to further that character in this
I
film
don't
at
think
all.
so. I don't think so. I think
You
you're
know
absolutely
what
wrong about that,
WW84
Jose.
does to further my understanding of the character? It actually confuses me more as to when Wonder Woman actually learned how to fly. When?
Yes,
Was
that
it in
too.
Wonder Woman
That
1984?
too.
Because she never flew in Batman vs. Superman, and she didn't fly in the first Wonder Woman. So I know the timelines still kind of line up, but like
That's
it only serves to
that's
confuse me
true.
on
I
that one
understand that.
because
I understand that. But they also never showed her needing help, right? Like they didn't show her like Aquaman, like he needed to be grabbed and like flown somewhere. So
that
there
I
is
didn't like
plausible
for another
deniability.
reason, but that was also in the Whedon cut. I'll explain that, I guess, when we get to Aquaman. It's a minor gripe, but it's still a bit of a gripe. I think Wonder Woman is marginally better, but at the same time, I also think that she was one of the characters that could have benefited from more cuts. And here's why. We got her introduction in Batman vs. Superman. We didn't need the same action scene, basically, again, that introduced her in Batman vs. Superman to introduce her in this one. That, like, her, like, saving people and, like, trying to hide it in a way. I thought that was silly. I thought it was unnecessary. I thought we could have introduced her in a more intellectual way, the way that we started to introduce her midway through the movie, where she was the one who was deciphering all the stuff that was going on with Darkseid. And I also will say that one of the things that I definitely wouldn't cut is related to Wonder Woman. I absolutely loved the first action scene with the Themyscirans, with Wonder Woman's brethren. I thought that action scene was great. I thought it was cool. His sisters. Excuse me, yes,
not brethren,
Sisterhood.
not his brother, not her brethren, but her
Sisterhood, yes.
family, basically her people. I thought that action scene was great. I thought that the way that they showed how much they were willing to sacrifice was awesome. The way that, like, even like that, those little details, like when they closed down the walls to that chamber to where the mother
Yeah.
box was kept,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
instead
Yeah,
of leaving the chamber, the Themyscirans slid into the chamber as the door closed. Like, we're gonna make sure that none of these freaks get out and like do anything, even if it means that we die. So that was great.
It was very
Yes.
300-esque. It
So
was very
much doper.
300-esque. And of course, it's Zack Snyder. So I love that because they didn't, like, obviously, like, I think that, like, the difference between Snyder and Whedon's version of the
Themyscirans? The Themyscirans, I
the
think.
women, sorry.
The Amazonians,
The
right?
Amazons,
They're from
the
Themyscira.
Amazons. Is that I think
Yeah.
that, like, Amazonians, right? I think that the way that Whedon presented it was a little bit more feminine versus Zack Snyder showing them a little bit
Somewhere in the middle,
more
though.
like
I
warriors.
definitely like Patty
Just,
Jenkins' version better, where they
you know.
actually had full armor and didn't have a friggin' midriff for some reason. I think that's still kind of stupid. Nobody would wear armor like that. It's silly. But it was definitely way better, because the other thing that you notice is that Whedon definitely cast models to be the Amazonians. Zack Snyder cast athletes, MMA women, like women who play basketball, like real badass women to be the Amazonians,
Right.
which is pays off.
I gotta say though, that one line, this is one of the best lines I've ever heard from, like, any kind of warrior thing. It's like, we go like, show them your fear, and they go, we have no fear. I was like,
That was
oh
pretty
man,
awesome.
that's such a dope line. I was like, dude, I want every single one of my students at the dojo to, like, I want them to chant that when we got people like visiting the dojo. You know what I mean? Like, that was, and it was just such an awesome response to Steppenwolf saying, like, we're gonna prey on your fear. You know what I mean? It's just such a dope way that they did this and it did this with them. But going back to Wonder Woman, what about, I mean, AJ, Eli, like, did you guys feel like she was better? Did
Yeah,
you like her better?
I feel like she was a lot better. Like, at least in this one, and I'm gonna just say this really quick. I have little to no memory of the original Justice League that came out theatrically. Like, they had to
wait.
point out things that I clearly should have remembered, but just like
he
I
did not
completely
remember the family.
blanked on it.
He did not
Why
remember
would
the
you?
family at
Yeah,
all.
like that.
Really?
At
Why
all.
would you?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But, take that as a good thing, okay?
Yeah.
I do got a quick question. Going back to, like, what you said about, like, her introduction to the back, was that not in the
Which
was that
introduction?
not in the Whedon cut? With Wonder Woman's introduction
It
with, like, the
was.
terrorists and stuff?
was.
No, I
Yes,
don't
it was.
think so.
It was
The
there.
only
It
difference,
was?
Yeah, it was.
is
Okay,
is when
okay.
she killed Bruce Bolton at the end of this cut by like
Yeah,
nuking
yeah,
him
yeah.
with the
Yeah,
gauntlets.
okay.
She didn't do that in the Whedon cut.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
I love that. I love that
Right.
scene after where it's like the smoke is coming out from the explosion, and then the hat just goes.
Yeah, it was like, we don't want to show you that she killed
I don't
someone,
love,
but,
though?
this is
Like,
the only
nuke
thing
Bruce
that has
Bolton in
survived.
front of like a group of children. Like, I get Wonder Woman is like a total killer.
And then she turns around to do her like I'm the role model. Like, hi, you can grow up to be
nuke guys with
whatever
your
you want to
gauntlets,
be,
too.
including a superhero killer.
Yeah, but back to what I was saying about her having more to do. I kind of like that she had that whole sequence where it's like, oh, so we're in trouble, and using the arrow to like, okay, I need the infomercial. What do we got? And basically, it's that really cool sequence where she's like in that chamber, and she's looking at the past and like, hey, these guys came here before, and this is the guy
That
that
was a
led
good
them.
sequence.
Like,
That was a good
prepare.
sequence.
Mhm.
She brought us
That was
that.
a really. I like that she had that type of thing to like.
I want to talk about that sequence
that
at
was
some
one
point
of the
too,
things
but
she did.
I'll let the next one go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh God.
Okay.
The corny came back.
So
no,
oh god,
no.
The corn is back.
It's not corny per se.
I'm still waiting for it. I'm still waiting for.
It's gonna come. I will tell you that.
Oh, God.
So I mean, yeah, but she was really good in this movie. I really liked as Jose said, the intellectual side of her.
Yeah.
But I really felt I felt that there was a lack of Wonder Woman in this movie, honestly. And I felt like
Interesting.
I don't know. I just felt like she was just there for like for parts of the movie.
I
She was
kind of
just
get it. I
there.
think what you might be saying, in my opinion, which is kind of speaks to what I said, is that a lot of what she did in this movie doesn't, or says in this movie, isn't super impactful. But kind of at the same time, she's still only exposition in some of the scenes that she's in. She's telling, not showing, which you do need a certain amount of that, but I think she does it a little bit too much and doesn't do enough butt kicking.
But I think that goes back to my earlier point where we've already seen Batman, we've already seen Superman, we've already seen Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
We need to really focus on these other characters and explain who they are. We don't need them to be, first and foremost in front of the entire film.
The only reason why I brought her up is because she doesn't play a huge role in the second part. Right?
Well, she does in the sense that she and Aquaman are kind of holding their own with Steppenwolf.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
that. You have the two
Powerhouses.
really accomplished warriors of the group. Going toe to toe with
Right.
Steppenwolf.
And she is one of the people that's
Okay.
instrumental in convincing the entire group to that somehow. Well, she's kind of like, I'm sorry, I should say it this way. She's the moral compass for the idea of bringing Superman back. She kind of sees everyone's side. She's a little more, I think, on the side of not doing it, but she still understands where Batman is coming from in that sequence. So that makes her important there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if that's accurate because there was the point where she was, again in her dialogue with Aquaman, saying that like she was on the side of like we needed Superman. We had this was the right choice. Aquaman was like, I told you, like she was more. It seemed like she was more on the side.
Well, I think
of
initially she had reservations
back.
though, didn't she? Like she was one of the people that was like, I don't know if we should bring him back. Like there was like some sort of almost. I mean, I don't know, respectful
tug of war. Like the
objections.
only person
I think maybe the
who's-
manner in which they were bringing him back was probably the issue.
Yeah.
But she was always kind of like there's only really one person that really can handle this situation, and he's the reason why these guys haven't been here before. Because you know what, the minute that Superman died, that's when they started invading. As long as he was here, it was kind of hands
Even
off.
though
on
he
the
was
Earth.
there for about 30 years, and what did they do before that? But
Yeah, well, but hey, listen,
He wasn't.
no, I'm saying,
Superman
why
yet.
didn't Darkseid or anybody else do anything
So-
before he was Superman?
because they
well,
lost.
we can talk about that because I think you, Jose, had a real issue with why he never came back.
I do.
And initially, I had that issue also, but AJ kind of explained it. But we can talk about that when
Okay.
we speak about both
All right.
Darkseid and Steppenwolf.
Yeah. So we only got a couple guys left on the team to talk about, and because we were just talking about like Wonder Woman and her relationship and the dialogue and stuff like that with Aquaman, let's talk about Aquaman. I think Aquaman is another character which I think that this
So
movie made so much better just by trimming some of the fat. They didn't like add too much. They just took away a lot of the stuff that kind of made him look like a fool, look comical. Like
Yeah.
I always hated the scene where he's like right before they go out, that he's like all of a sudden telling the truth and getting emotional. And it's because he has like the lasso around his ankle or sitting on it. I don't remember exactly, but that always kind of it seemed condescending or rather to demean him. and they took that out, and just by taking that out and making him the character that actually, to me, he felt like a lot more like Marvel's Namor. You know what I mean? Just like really kind of the antagonist of the group, like doesn't want to be the team player and wants to like play on the wants to be the devil's advocate to every kind of conversation. You know what I mean?
I think this
Um,
just really quick. I think this version of Aquaman is a version that you can actually see him becoming king of Atlantis. The Whedon version, the surfer dude, there is no way in hell that you want him on the throne of Atlantis. This one here, he has more of a regality to him, even though he's a
yeah.
darker version, but yet you never at any time in the movie think that he's a fool. In the
Right.
Whedon version, there were plenty of times where he was like Pauly Shore. It was
Right. Yeah.
super annoying, to be honest, because eventually you know that this guy is gonna ascend at one point to the throneship of Atlantis, and you're saying this is the guy. It made
Yeah.
no sense.
Before I throw it to Jose though, real quick, just again, like this is another example of, like, to me, this. And I don't know, like I know that you say that like Aquaman was a great movie. I thought it was a good movie. I don't think it was a great movie because Aquaman still, as a movie, still made him feel, to me, didn't make him feel as like regal, godly, you know, the way that this one did.
I say
And
great movie in the DC way of things. You know,
okay, and that I
not
totally
yeah,
understand.
not great as in this is one of the top 10 superhero movies of all time.
Right.
Great
No, I
in that,
understand
yeah,
that.
great in the DC frame of their
Right.
universe.
But I still think that this was a better Aquaman movie than Aquaman itself.
Listen,
Jose?
most of the characters,
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
I
that
agree.
was a
I'm
passive
sorry, Jose.
aggressive
yeah.
great because
No,
it was like this was a good movie for DC.
Exactly.
no, I feel the same way. Remember, Jose, I was telling you that like I have like a certain lower bar of
I actually
expectation
don't.
for DC
I actually
films.
don't. We'll get to that.
You
But
know?
like, so Aquaman, better, yes. I would disagree that it's a lot better. I might go far enough to agree that it's a slightly better Aquaman movie. To Walt's point and to Wolfie's point, I didn't hate the scene in the Whedon cut where he has that like weird moment where he gets emotional and all that stuff. But I see why it was unnecessary because it makes him look like an emotional oaf, and he's not really like emotionally stupid. He's just the kind of person that says what needs to be said. He's very willing to be emotionally
Can
honest,
I can
but yeah,
can I also say one thing about that scene? That scene also shows how Whedon really doesn't have a lot of respect for the character of Wonder Woman, because it was demeaning not only
yeah,
in
she's
in the
so
sense
hot.
of the Aquaman point, but right, exactly, that is your takeaway of Wonder Woman, is that she's so hot. That it kind of informs you of the way Whedon thinks as
Yeah,
well. So, but
in this
I'll,
one,
I'll
he
just
has
leave it at that.
chemistry with Wonder Woman, but it's a different kind of chemistry. It's not necessarily romantic. It's they have a mutual respect, and it's also
This,
yeah, because
yeah, I
but
was gonna say
also it's
respect.
also like it's adversarial, right? Because they have the backstory in this one of the relationship between Atlantis and Themyscira, where they freaking hate each other in the comics. They're always at each other's throats in the comics, so they
Yeah,
put that
but
in there and they make it more interesting in this than it was in the other cuts, which is good for Aquaman.
but Aquaman really doesn't care.
Yeah, he
He
Right.
even
said so
mentioned it. He was like,
himself. I
"Yeah,
hate them just as much as you do.
this whole thing with Atlantis and Themyscira, whatever." That was kind of
Right,
his
that's
takeaway
true.
with
But
that.
at least it introduces that because at the very least, we would have gotten that adversarial relationship. We might still get
That
it in
war.
Flashpoint because that's a big part of the Flashpoint movie.
Yeah.
Um, he had much
Hmm.
better action scenes in this movie. I gotta say, okay, so this is to me. I want to say this about. There's two scenes in this movie that kind of show you what the thing is that I don't like about Zack Snyder. Okay. Um, so when we get to the Flash, like I said, I'll describe his scene. This scene with Aquaman that I didn't like, that to me was indulgent crap. I'm sorry to put it that way, but it was indulgent crap. Did we really need the whole freaking song from those Icelandic women when Aquaman was leaving at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, right.
What the
I
heck
do
was
agree
that,
with you on
man?
that
That
one.
was totally
Yeah,
unnecessary.
I
was a
think that
little
was
weird.
that was
But
waste.
to me,
That
that's
was
like the
definitely
indulgence
waste.
where Zack Snyder sometimes thinks he's a little more clever than he actually is. And I think that it's fun for him to lean
But
into the fact that he loves freaking comic books and that allegory is part of it, but he shouldn't highlight the allegory so much and he shouldn't highlight the like little artsy weird moments.
Yeah.
you don't think he was kind of highlighting the culture of the Icelandic
No,
people on
I don't
that
think
one?
so. I don't think so because I think if he were, he would have
Okay.
highlighted a couple of
Um.
other things in the bar instead of just focusing on the conversation between Batman and
You know.
Aquaman. So I think that scene was, I think the most of the scene was actually good, but I think that just doing stuff like that is like
It was
real
overlong.
silly indulgence that just isn't necessary.
It was
You know,
overlong.
I think that it's one of those things that like he probably filmed and maybe intended to cut, but because of the current circumstances, he's just like he's basically
Maybe,
like no deleted scenes,
maybe, yeah,
everything. We're
maybe he
putting
just wanted to
everything in there.
show
You know what I mean?
every
But
contribution. Yeah,
that being said, see, if this was just an Aquaman movie, it would have been perfect. It would have been great. I would love to have seen an Aquaman movie that's kind of in the Snyderverse, where it's a little bit darker, a little bit more on the Icelandic, kind of Slavic, and all that kind of culture and whatnot. Would have been great. So it just didn't fit for this
yes.
film.
Mira
You
was
know what I
better
mean?
though. Also, Mira was
So
better. I
like
think in
if
this
it like
too.
Mira was better. I
I
also
think
liked
she
her
was a
hair
better
better.
character.
I just again,
Okay.
I just think that like there's a ton better. But
More than enough.
if it does, anybody else have any other points on Aquaman?
Let's get to Flash. Let's get
Let's
to
get to the
Flash.
Flash.
Yeah, let's get to
Let's
Flash.
get to the Flashpoint.
The
AJ,
Flash.
you are the DC Wikipedia. Can you tell me if the Flash was good or not? I thought that he was so much better.
Oh yes.
But I will say this real quick though. I don't necessarily like that they cut the scene of Batman like kind of guiding the Flash and kind of being that father figure of like Flash not wanting to, I don't know what to do. I'm not a superhero, this and that. He's like, just save people. Like I kind of like that scene just because it showed Batman
Yes.
being a leader, a team leader, and it
Okay.
showed Flash like that was the moment that Flash went from being like I'm this kid that has powers to I'm this kid that saves people's lives
Yeah,
on
it helps
purpose.
fix one of
You know
the
what I
things
mean?
that I really
I
didn't
mean,
like.
I
Um,
get
Go
that.
ahead. It helps fix one of the things
what was
that I
that?
really didn't
I
like
mean,
about both versions, but it helped make it a little bit better. But AJ, finish your point, and then I'll get to it when we get around to me.
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, I get what you're saying there, but at the same time, I like that they also explored, his actual father.
More, a lot more.
Not Bart Allen. Oh my God.
Henry Allen.
Yes, Henry Allen. Sorry, brain fart.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just like that whole, like, especially once I like how they did like here's where we were then, and then at the end of the movie,
Yeah,
here's where
he
we
was
are
in
now.
the Whedon cut, but he's barely
Like,
in it,
Right.
and
Right.
he's a good actor too.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
think
He
so.
only had the
Maybe
one
one
scene,
and a
right?
half.
and he had two. He had. Oh wait,
Yeah,
in the Whedon, yeah, I was
hmm
probably just like
and
one
Billy
or
Crudup is a
something.
good
Yeah.
actor. So from Watchmen, remember he was Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Manhattan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And,
So
and
as far as the Flash goes, like exploring his powers, exploring kind of, getting the glimpse of what's it called, the Flash
The Speed
the
treadmill,
Force.
Speed
the
Force.
Speed Force. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was like I would say that he very obviously had the most crucial moment in the movie.
Him and Cyborg.
Everything just
I
like
think him
towards
and
the end when
Cyborg are
like the unity.
somewhat
Well,
equal
him and
because
Cyborg,
Cyborg was
yes,
the one
right,
that had to understand it,
right,
and
but
Flash
see,
was the one that actually did that thing at the end that saved the day.
right, see, but
Mhm.
but Cyborg didn't like. They ended up not accomplishing their goal, right? Like the unity actually happened. The catastrophe, happened, and Flash saw everything happening, and he was like, "I need to fix this right now." And he's like, "I just need to be faster than the speed of light. Just need to be faster than the speed of light." And then he goes, and like that, I feel like the entire budget of the film was spent in that one scene. So, but I do not necessarily understand the Speed Force. So that's why I'm going to AJ.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like so. Here's the thing. Oh, I'm not gonna go into the whole history of the Speed
It's
Force,
a
but
lot.
basically, It
Cliff notes. Cliff notes.
Cliff Notes, it allows him to go at superhuman speeds and do much more. For instance, if he goes fast enough, he can go back in time. And in this, you see him employing a miniaturized version, a very, very miniaturized version of Flashpoint, where it's basically, okay, I got to break the rule. What's the rule? Going back in time.
He actually did it twice, though,
Yeah,
in
he
that
did
movie.
it twice, but not to
You know,
this extent.
Yeah. The first time was a couple of seconds. The other time was like a couple of minutes.
The Flash.
You know?
But
Yes,
every minute counted.
The cool Flashpoint sort of reference that I liked was just like in Flashpoint, he kind of gets that cut on his leg when he's about to when he has to run super fast to kind of hobble him. Remember in Flashpoint, just before he basically runs back to fix everything again. And it's kind of cool how he had that little weakness for that moment just in this movie in the same way where he had to push past physical pain to get to a speed that he'd never even been to before.
Incredible shot by that parademon who it took him like 15 shots before he actually got him.
There's no way he would have hit him, man.
So
The parademons are basically like stormtroopers. Sometimes they get the hit, sometimes
listen,
they don't.
not for nothing. That guy was good because he actually
Going
got
faster
him.
than the speed of light or close to it, whatever it was at that point.
He actually got him.
So
give it that parademon.
Yeah, he should get a medal from Darkseid when he gets back home, even though he probably didn't get back home because they're all dead. So Flash.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me say. Oh, go ahead. Did you have a point to make with you?
No, I was
do you
gonna
have,
ask,
any more
is anybody
questions?
I'm totally way more excited now to see
Yes.
Flashpoint. I think
I am.
I'm still not.
I am.
Yeah.
No?
and not because I don't want to see Flashpoint as a movie. I just think it's way too early for this. I think Flashpoint should be something that you have it once you have a well-established DC universe.
Yes.
Not the thing that happens right after you introduce him. That's my problem with the Flashpoint movie. I want to see the Flashpoint movie. We've actually had Flashpoint in the CW verse.
Are you talking about the show?
We're talking about the show, right?
Yeah.
The CW verse. And I do want to see it in the theater. I just don't want it this early. I think you need to flesh out your characters. I think you have to have a connection with your characters before you decide to change them all again.
Exactly, because
that's my problem with that.
That's what makes Flashpoint like such an amazing story, because you already have this baseline of the universe, and you're so well accustomed to it that once you actually get to Flashpoint, it's like, what the hell is this bizarro world?
And especially in this cinematic universe that we have, it's like a Frankenstein of a universe, because you have the first half, which was one vision, and now this next vision of this universe is totally fractured, because they even admitted they're not interconnected in any real way. They're just telling stories. So then what's the point of Flashpoint then? The whole point of Flashpoint is that you're dealing with characters that you've grown to love over a series of films, and now you're going to say that there's going to be this one seminal event that's going to change the universe forever. Right now, we don't have a universe to care about.
Yeah, I mean, here's that's the major gripe that I have with the movie. Okay, and it's been said before. The Cyborg film coming before this would have had that much more of an impact, because honestly, you take some of Cyborg's stuff out of this movie, you take some of Flash's stuff out of this movie, you take some of Aquaman's stuff out of this movie, like Wolfie said, you have a whole different movie for each of those characters. So if you took more time to set up those characters before this and outside of this, you get something that is much more likely to knock it out of the park for me. And then you could have effectively had Silas die in this movie because he built his relationship up with his father in the Cyborg film. So Flash.
And this whole thing really, really falls on the WB executives, because you know what? They saw what Marvel was doing. They saw the success of the Avengers, and they said, you know what? We need to get to that point as
Cyborg
quickly
should have
as
been
possible.
Iron Man. They should have set up with. It didn't have to be as many movies as Marvel to set it up with, but two or three at least.
You know what?
Give me two or three.
At the very least, you needed a Batman film.
I don't think so.
All by himself.
I disagree. I think the Batman film can come after that.
I really, really do.
I think so. I definitely think so. I think that you needed a Batman film right after Man of Steel. Then BVS.
I don't think so, because you got Christopher Nolan. That wasn't that far removed, and I think Batman is so well known that if you introduce him in Justice League, everybody knows who he is.
It's not a point
and
of
then,
that.
and then you can.
It's not a point of that.
It's
Well,
not
you could
about
do
that.
something compelling
story.
between Justice League 2, and Justice League 3 with Batman that I think would be more compelling than what you do beforehand, because we don't need to set Batman up in this universe. Everybody knows who Batman is.
It's not
It's
Batman setting him up in the universe. It's Batman setting up the reason why you have BVS in the
Yeah.
first place. That's
Yeah,
the whole
that's
point of having
important.
Batman. Batman, you have to show the type of character he is, and then you have to show how he finds Superman as such a threat, and build that thing so that the culmination
why?
is BVS.
That was
I
so
don't- I
well
don't think
characterized in the
BVS
beginning of
doesn't work.
BVS, number one.
I don't think so.
Just by him looking up
I
at that
think you
tower
need
at
more
the beginning of BVS and basically like seeing what a threat Superman could be by accident, I think was enough. Which is the number one thing for me. And I don't want to harp on this too much because this could turn into a whole other bigger conversation, obviously.
I think it was good. I don't think that it was great. I think it could have been better to introduce, because the thing is, like, it's not introducing the Batman story.
Mhm.
It's not introducing Batman and Bruce Wayne as like this is how he became who he is. Again, everybody knows Batman and the entire lore, which is why it would have been perfectly fine to just throw Batman into like basically throw Batfleck in and create this universe
hold
where
on.
he is,
Let me
creating
get to my
basically the conflict
number
between
2 why
Superman
it
before
does not
BVS.
work, and it's because of Zack Snyder. Batman was not active during Man of Steel. He was retired. This is Dark Knight Rises Batman, or Dark Knight Returns Batman. So you can't. What are you going to set up? Like, what's there to set up? Batman in retirement? Like, that's not going to be an interesting movie. Nobody's going to care. But look, you guys have your.
No, there is something really important to set up. No, this is important because the thing is, like, we see a Batman in BVS that we've never seen in any other Batman
Exactly. I
film,
was
which
about to
is
say that.
a Batman that's borderline psychotic and ready to kill. We've never seen that before. So how is it that we don't get a chance to see how he got there before we see
Because you have
him
to go
and
back
his
10.
conflict
You have to
with
go back
You
10
literally-
years in the timeline. That's how long he's retired.
But you literally
That's what
have
the movie would have done.
you
I
literally
don't
have
agree,
Death in the
man. I
Family
think that's
right there.
way too
Right
much.
there, because
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't know.
But look, we can argue about this another day, perhaps, and the way that they can set up these movies. I want to finish my point on Flash because I think this is, again, one of the most, for me, one of the things that's egregious. Again, I think Flash was better, just like everybody else. Flash was way better. There's two things I didn't like, and it kind of relates to the scene that Wolfie spoke about that was in the Whedon cut, which I did like. I did like the fact that Batman was more of a father figure, even though it made him more like it made Flash more like Spider-Man in the Marvel movies compared to Iron Man. But it did explain away something to a certain extent that I didn't like in either movie. I didn't like that Flash was such a freaking klutz. Why did he trip all over the place? It was stupid. He clearly has run close to the speed of light before because he insinuates that he knows what the result is. So the fact that he was tripping all over the place, even though he was nervous, to me was silly. No,
He
it
tripped
was more than
once.
once. It was more than
No,
once.
he did it
tripped a couple of
twice.
times, including
The second time he
that
got
he tripped
shot.
when Superman was trying to hit him, which I get. But at the same time,
Yeah.
why is he such a klutz? He's clearly able to do cool things with his powers, and I'll segue this into one of my favorite and also my most hated scenes of the movie, which is when he saves Iris West. And I'll explain why I loved it and hated it. When it started, when he goes through that window, he first realizes that Iris is in trouble. He goes through that window, his shoes rip apart. Awesome detail. Shoes aren't going to survive the Flash running at full speed. Really cool moment. When he goes through the window by just putting his finger out and smashing through it, by running through it, in that way, super cool moment. He realizes certain ways to use his powers for these great abilities. What I didn't like, and then I know somebody wants to chime in here, what I didn't like and what I absolutely freaking hated about this scene that made Zack Snyder in some way equivalent to Joss Whedon with his Wonder Woman BS with Aquaman and she's so hot.
Damn.
What was with the hot dogs? That was such a stupid and obvious misdirected joke. And y'all adults in the room know exactly what I'm talking about. That was a misdirection. You know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm talking about.
I think
Not at all. I have no idea what you're talking about.
We all knew what he was going to do with
I
that hot
think-
dog for a
I
second.
think you're.
Come on.
Yeah,
No.
he was going to eat it. The man is literally destitute. He's looking for a
Yeah.
job. This was the way I took that scene.
And he's always
I don't
hungry.
think- yeah,
because the way that he looked
absolutely.
at Iris
Black-
after he looked at that hot dog, I'm sorry. There was something
What?
loaded there.
I
And I'm not the only one that
I
saw
don't
it too, because
Well,
Dude, I've seen
Get your head
a
out the
few.
gutter.
Exactly.
I didn't
I've
see it.
already seen 2 articles about this.
I didn't
I'm not
see
the
it
only
that
one
way.
that noticed that. I've already seen 2 articles
Oh
about
my
that
God.
moment in the movie. I
I
thought it
think-
was
I
ridiculous.
think you're looking for
Well,
something that's
okay.
not
Even if
there.
it's
Here's
not
what I
that,
gotta say
and
about
then I'll
that.
let Walt go. Even if it's not that in that moment, I thought making that moment comedic took away from it because it was a beautiful moment and a beautiful scene. I thought it was amazing until that joke, which wasn't necessary. I thought that Flash being comedic in this movie was great. I thought that him being comedic every single moment of every single scene was stupid, and it ruined that scene for me. And it's a Zack Snyder indulgence, I think.
All right. I kind of disagree with your take on the hot dog thing. This has become hot dog gate for JLA over here. I just took it as, you know what, this is a guy, they literally just show him he's begging for a job. They show him he's living out of an abandoned warehouse. The man has no money. I just saw it as, you know what, here they're free hot dogs.
Yeah.
Let me just grab them, because after I use the Speed Force, which drains my body, and I'm constantly eating snacks, I'm probably gonna have to use this afterwards. The other thing that I have to say about the scene, which I think was really good in the way they changed it, was that in the Whedon verse, you saw him kind of grabbing people and flipping them out and
Yes.
taking them out.
I think I know what you're going to say.
What they did here was they showed that there's consequences with going that fast, and
He was
you
so
cannot
gentle
do
with
it.
Iris.
Because honestly,
That was awesome.
right, exactly.
I
What he
love
could
that.
have done, what he would have, yeah, what Whedon would have done was he would have grabbed her and probably taken her to like some rooftop cafe and whatnot afterwards, so that he can wine and dine her. What Zach did was recognize that, you know what, if I move this woman at the speed of light, I'm literally going to
It's gonna
flay
be
her
like-
alive.
Like,
And I thought that was really, really good the way they did
like
that.
The Boys. It'll be like the beginning of The Boys. Like
Well, yeah,
like
in that
Huey's
sense, you know,
girlfriend.
his body is built for that. His body is attuned to the Speed Force. She's not. So clearly, if you're taking a person at that fast speed, they're
Yeah.
gonna get injured. You know. So I thought that was a really interesting way of how they changed the Flash's power between what Whedon portrayed it, and they even showed it afterwards when he was trying to save the people and get them out of that reactor or whatever. You know, it wasn't a simple thing as like, I'm going to carry you out. It was like, I've got to gently get you out there, because I know if I go too fast, you're probably going to die, you know? Eli, I know you wanted to say something about the Flash, so please go right ahead.
Okay, this is where the corn comes in.
Oh God, I knew
it's
it.
not
Well,
necessarily
if
corny.
there was a character,
Really?
if there was a character that you could
Mm.
say is kind of corny, it would be Flash, because he's kind of like the comedic element in this movie. But go right ahead.
The comedy, perfect A+, whatever, right? He just, I don't know. He just felt sort of annoying in this movie. I like, you have the thing with the
No.
klutz, and then it's just, I don't know.
Exactly.
I figured Peter.
But you got to remember though, he was also the guy that mentioned we should bring back Superman using the mother box.
I know, and I know that
He was
had,
kind of the genesis of all of that too.
yeah.
so.
He was good. I don't doubt like his intelligence and like his ability with like the Speed Force, because I love that scene where he was like going back in time and stuff. I thought that he was a little bit annoying though. I figured Flash to be like that. If he was a kid, he would be that like Peter Parker sort of character, not like I don't know. I mean, especially it's not just that he's annoying, like you said, he's a klutz, like especially when he yelled out Batman's right? And I get that was funny, right? But
Yeah.
like even still, that just shows you how clumsy it
What
is. And
what I will
mean-
take away from this is that out of all of the characters here, he's probably the youngest in using his
Yeah.
powers, and he doesn't have
He's
a
green.
full
I know.
command. And I really love the way that they portrayed the Speed Force here, which is totally different from any other version that I've seen
is
before.
a
He
little
never
you know?
used it in the
Yeah.
cool creative
but-
ways
and-
he does in the comics, though. He knows
Right,
he can
exactly.
throw energy.
So
why didn't he
that's
do that
why-
to some parademons? Like, why did he dodge every parademon instead of like attacking one? Just one, like, or pushing one,
Yeah.
something.
I think
Because he's still a
Yeah, I
kid.
think
We
he's
got to
still a
remember that
kid.
he's still a human. That's why he trips.
Yeah,
That's
but
why
he
he's
fights crime.
scared. That's why he doesn't.
And I think that's why he made the comment with Batman, because you know what, this is a legendary character that people, it's myth that a Batman even exists.
Also, he
so
attacked
to actually
Superman.
meet a
So,
Batman,
like, why
he's
wouldn't he attack a
whoa,
parademon? Really? Like, he actually went after
All
Superman.
right,
No,
Eli.
I don't. No, I
Okay.
don't doubt his ability in combat. I don't doubt his ability at all, because we see that he's evolving as a character. But I thought that starting him off as that, I mean, what I took away from that comedic scene where he was talking about Batman's signal and all, I just took that as he has a big mouth.
Yeah, that's
I know, and I just don't like that at all. I don't see Flash as
Tom
that
Holland
sort of
already
character.
does that
But
in real life.
that's essentially what he is, even in the
know.
comics.
I thought
He's smarter than that in the comics, though. Even as a kid, even when
Yeah,
he's
he's
younger, he's
smarter.
not
Yeah,
that
way
oblivious.
smarter. And as much as I hate to say this, well, I don't
He
exactly.
felt more like Kid Flash.
Yeah, he felt like a kid. He felt like he was a.
He's a kid.
He felt but he felt like he was younger than he was. He's at
He
least.
did feel a little immature. I do
immature.
have to agree with that. For
I mean, yes, he did.
Yeah.
I had to say yes, he did. But again, look, this is a kid that's like
I know, but
he's barely like finding a job. He's looking for a job as a dog walker or groomer or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of job that kids do. So I think it was intended to portray him
yeah, but
that like, I think embrace that.
and
I
I
thought
think
that-
he has the least amount of experience out of all of them, quite
I know
clearly.
that,
Right.
But it's not like if you're in a he's a teen. He's at least 16.
He's more
way
than that.
older than
No,
that.
he's going into college, no,
That's
or
even
or out of college.
He's probably early 20s. If
he
you
already
put a gun
worked
to
at
my
Star
head,
Labs
I
in the
would-
comics. At
No
this point.
20.
So why isn't he working? He could
Yeah.
be working
No
at Star
20.
Labs.
Well, we're talking about JLA, no, the movie
He's
rather.
still
We're
in
talking
his
about the
20s.
movie.
No 20-year-old. No 20-year-old is that immature. You can have. Okay.
Wait till you get to your 20s, buddy.
Fine. Okay. Yes, but like when you're talking.
I know 50-year-olds that act like that.
Okay. No. I'm that was no.
Plus,
20-year-old.
can I just say plus? Like,
But-
what kid who didn't have either of his parents growing up would be that immature? No, he can't take care of
I
himself.
know.
At
We don't
all
know.
in this movie. It seems like. That's
I
what
know,
I'm
but
agreeing with you. I think
yes,
it's silly
I
because he didn't have his mom or his dad, and he's still a gigantic baby. He should have a little more maturity.
I know. But
I don't think that's accurate.
otherwise, I thought that the thing with his father was pretty
Yes.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But he just felt like a baby. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, we next time that I see you, I'm definitely gonna take a bag of corn nuts and throw it at you.
Candy
But
corn.
that's just me wanting to kind of like just kind of be corny with you. But with that being said, I do want to kind of now that we've kind of talked about all the good guys, I do want to get into the ending battle, and essentially with like our conversation with Darkseid and Steppenwolf. I will say this, that the way that they ended the film, I don't know. I would like to know if this is the original ending that Zack Snyder had, if they already filmed this ending or not.
Other than the nightmare
They
scene,
had to
so.
have. They didn't allow him to make any. They didn't allow
Nightmare
him to
scene was
reshoot
reshot.
anything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they
Because
did.
remember, Jared
did,
Leto
yeah.
was
Oh,
never
okay.
in these Whedon cut. He was never in Zack Snyder's original vision. He was added recently.
But was the only thing that they reshot the nightmare sequence in the epilogue, or did it? Because my thing is, like, this ending was so much better
Oh yeah.
than the Whedon ending. Like, the way that like they defeated Steppenwolf and everything. Oh my gosh, it was freaking amazing.
I mean,
Like, I thought that it was so sick how like they
Yeah, we already
defeated him
talked
and
about how
whatnot.
Superman was way better in
like-
that conflict, even though Superman was good in the
Not
Whedon
even
cut,
that.
but not
Yeah.
this good in terms of how cool he is.
Steppenwolf has so many more layers in this movie. Honestly,
Yes.
he is my
Yes.
favorite character in the movie.
He actually has
He
motivation.
is, yeah.
Yes.
He has range. He has range. He was like, there was a part where he almost looked like he was about to like cry when he was told to like he needs to conquer 50,000 more planets
Yeah.
just to be able to like have a chance to plea for his return back home to Darkseid. And that again goes to like show like how much power Darkseid actually commands too. So
Like not even
um
that. Like just the way, because in the original Justice League, it's set up that Steppenwolf is just like, oh, I came here, I lost. No, I'm here for revenge. No, it's a little more than that because they change it. Because Darkseid is going on about this whole betrayal thing. And it got me wondering, well, wow, I don't normally know Steppenwolf for this. Well, what happened? Then you see the past sequence where Darkseid invades for the first time. And one of the things that I really noticed about that was the absence of Steppenwolf to begin with. And so in my mind, I'm going, oh, so that's why he's having to endure all this crap. And it's just like, oh, it's so awesome.
everything was really, really good. I think that like everything that they did with Steppenwolf was perfect. I thought it was great. His armor, his look, the way that he fought. I just thought that he was just like I thought he was amazing.
The way that he,
Um,
sorry.
no, go on.
The way that he fought, I'll agree with you there. But as far as his look,
Yeah,
it
it was a
is
little weird.
not very comic accurate.
Like his
Not gonna lie.
face was
He
like
he's got a very alien demeanor with that armor, which is not what he is,
Well,
right?
they're in a very, very, very loose sense. The Fourth Worlders are akin to aliens, but they're more towards like they're gods.
Right,
That's what they
exactly.
are. But like they made
He stands out. He stands out with the pantheon of Desaad and Granny Goodness and Darkseid, because Darkseid, those three characters there, they're closer to the comic books, right? And they're
much closer. Yeah,
and they don't have that alien look. Steppenwolf is the outlier. Steppenwolf really
Yeah,
has that kind of shimmering, almost like a predator type of, you know.
yeah, that like live
but
armor.
not
Yeah,
even
it
that.
felt a little weird. I
Like
mean,
they went above and beyond with his alien look. Like in the comics, he looks like a dude with a beard.
He
no,
looks like
that's
Tony
true.
Stark.
Yeah,
I totally understand that.
yeah, yeah.
I
That's
totally
true.
understand he looks like Tony Stark. So, but
And his face
I
is
don't know.
way too small.
Oh,
yeah, it
man.
looked like a baby face.
Yeah.
Like lost his crunch.
Well, the other thing too is that there is a backstory that we know is there. That's definitely more fleshed out in this
Oh
one
yeah.
in a sense.
Oh yeah.
But maybe there's a reason he looks that way because of the backstory. Maybe there was something that happened to him as he was cast out. You
They
know,
miniaturized his
I don't know.
face.
I don't know.
No. But I mean, I mean, I guess.
He was a far better character in this version than
Yeah.
I mean,
So
leaps
much
and
better.
bounds, like 3,000% better than the Whedonverse.
Like I didn't
Again,
expect myself to like Steppenwolf this much.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta see the Whedon cut again just to
Why?
see because I need to see the comparisons. I need to see if there was any of this that I really like in the
No.
Snyder cut that was already in
I
Whedon.
know Jose's dying to chime in here, but why would you ever go back to the Whedon version at this point?
I need to
I
know
know
how
that
much of it was Snyder.
I know that Whedon's version is quote unquote canonical in this universe, and it's already been decided that that's
That's
what
a
it is.
crime. That's a crime.
But why would you ever? I mean, literally, I have it on digital. If there's a way that I could take it off my library, I would. I
Hold on,
really,
I
really
will.
would. There's no reason
It's
that I
just
will ever go back to the Whedon version.
I'm gonna throw this to Jose,
Yes,
but
he's
it's
dying
just
to get
what
in
it is.
here.
You know what it is. It's just that I need to like. I liked so much of this film. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I liked so much of the film that I do need to kind of go back and see how much of it was already in the Whedon cut.
Well, if you
You
got
know, because I do kind of because
if
as
you
much as
got
I'm not
2 hours to
enjoying Whedon
waste, by all means,
There were
I
like
gotta do
3
dishes,
scenes
sure.
or 4 scenes that were in the Whedon cut. The Flash introducing himself to Batman, or Batman introducing himself to the Flash. The Superman fight. I can't remember the others, but there really isn't that much in this movie.
Listen, the only way I watch the Whedon version again is at 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm fast asleep.
You saw Postal How did you see Postal and you won't see
I
this
think
again?
that's still a better version than the Whedon version. At least with Postal, I understood that was a bad movie, and I understood that the guy was making a bad movie. Whedon, sorry. The Whedon, like you said, it's a crime. It really, really is.
Yeah.
The movie police need to be outside his door right now with at least 5 set of handcuffs, for him. Because I mean, what he did to that movie is just pathetic. It really is. There's no way that I am ever, and I quote you on this, even if it's flipping on the TV, there is no way that I will ever watch the Whedon version ever again.
Indeed.
I will sit through 4 hours of watching Zack Snyder's version than the measly 2 hours that it would take to watch
He shall
Whedon's
come
version.
down upon you with great vengeance and furious anger if you tell him to watch that movie again. Okay, I'm going to give my quick thoughts on Steppenwolf, and then I'll flip us all to Dark Side, I think, so we can get to that. I'll flip to that. I'll give my thoughts on that so we can transition. So Steppenwolf, AJ, I'm sorry, I didn't love it. But what I will say to you is that what was there left me wanting more. No, absolutely. Sorry. I'm going to tell you why. Because I think you would have benefited in this movie from taking away a little bit of stuff from Wonder Woman, a little bit of that meat, a little stuff from Cyborg, a decent amount of stuff. Well, from all the characters, you trim a little bit, you give a little bit more to Steppenwolf, because what was there was compelling. But I almost feel like you would have gotten something more effective in a way if you sent somebody with him. And I'll explain the reason why I say that is, let's say Granny Goodness or somebody accompanied him on this mission. You have somebody for him to bounce more of his thoughts and feelings on being exiled and a lot of other things that he deals with in this movie. I think the issue I had was that although it was cool to see him kind of express these things, I thought that it was kind of impersonal to see him have like the Star Wars Hollow conversation with the Sod throughout the movie.
But that's kind of the point of being exiled.
I get it. I get it. I understand.
You can't really talk to anybody because you're not supposed to be with anybody.
He's talking to everybody. He talks to Darkseid. He talks to Sod.
Well, he's talking.
I think.
No, he only talks to Darkseid because you
could make it the case that somebody was sent to watch over him. Okay, and like because he wanted to redeem himself, but say somebody wanted to control him and make sure that he did what Darkseid needed him to do. I think it would have been better for somebody to bounce some more of that stuff off in person, because I think that there was more of a complicated villain there that we didn't get quite enough of.
Again, if you're exiled, you don't have a liaison to your former past.
It's not even that. That's not how Apocalypse works. Like, if Apocalypse is basically hell, and hell they're not going to give you like God, what do you call those? A therapist.
You're exiled, but we'll give you an executive assistant to help you out with these things.
Yeah, I know, but that's basically the role that person would
somebody
fill,
to make sure he accomplishes what he says he's going to accomplish, and to kill him.
He doesn't need an EA though. He doesn't need an EA.
No, the Apocalypse, they don't care. If you fail, you fail. If you win, well, good.
Well,
it's
maybe
good
not
us.
in that way, but it still left me wanting more details and more of a performance from the character that brought him to life. I thought in general there was a way to do it a little bit better, because I thought there was a lot of wasted potential in what we could have gotten from him. I thought he was more. I get his justification a little bit, but I still think he was more of a cookie cutter villain than he was a complex one. And I think the complex one was absolutely there to be fleshed out a little bit more. But everybody gave their thoughts on Darkseid. I feel like I'm kind of the one who's a little bit on the devil's advocate side here, and I didn't like him as much. The design was better, though. I'll say that, even though it's not comic accurate. I'm not sorry, Steppenwolf. Did I say Darkseid? Yeah,
on Steppenwolf. Yeah, okay. I was going to say.
So let's move on to Darkseid. If we would you guys want to move on to Darkseid, or does anybody else have anything to say about?
Yeah, no, we want to make sure that this isn't a Snyder cut length podcast.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll move on to Darkseid, and I'll make my thoughts relatively short on Darkseid, and let everybody else, including AJ, who is like the ultimate Darkseid stan. We got to get your thoughts on this.
How many T-shirts do you have of Darkseid?
I kind of have
that's
like
still
3
pretty
or something.
Good of one character.
Yeah.
So, okay. Darkseid was good. He has stubby legs. and it's
I think
weird.
it's 3.
The design had stubby legs and it
Okay.
weirded me out. The design was generally pretty cool, though. The CGI was good for something that they probably kind of threw together instead of taking real post-production time on it. It wasn't perfect, but I'm not gonna hold it to some super high standard. It was good for what it was. Darkseid was good. I think also, like Steppenwolf, his setup could have been slightly better, but it couldn't have been much better because, as has been mentioned in some of our conversations before this podcast, he was kind of setting himself up, but only like Thanos with his quick appearances in the MCU before he became the main villain. Although I do think because he had a slightly meatier role in this movie, they could have done a little bit more with him. So my final thoughts on Darkseid are he was a wimp. He was from beginning to end, he was a wimp. And I understand that he was useless at the beginning when they showed the
Really?
previous battle
Okay.
between Ares and Zeus and everybody else. Great. Okay. He has this awesome display of power. He like shakes the entire world. And then he literally hurts or kills no one in that opening battle. No one. Not a single person. He doesn't even fight Zeus or Ares or anybody else. He just gets tanked by Ares like Thor beating the snot out of Thanos in Infinity War. It's underwhelming. Give me a moment of showing me what Darkseid is capable of, even as
They
I
did.
think they did that when
he
They
hurt.
did.
Who did he attack? Who did he kill? This is the
No, but they
story.
showed his power when they did. It showed that little montage where he even had the oh,
Hey,
sorry.
hey,
Oh,
hello,
sorry.
hello.
Sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
language,
Oh god, I'm
language.
so sorry. Oh god, I meant to say freaking. I'm so sorry. Blame it on Snyder. Blame it on Snyder making this movie a rated R.
3 F-bombs. Okay, you're talking about the moment where he like shakes the earth with that strike, right?
Yeah, but
No, not just
No.
that, but there's like a little montage that you see
With
the
Cyborg, he
Later.
sees
beams
the
and
Later
future.
in the
yeah, like he just right, but we still see a glimpse
Yes.
of his power. You can't say that you didn't get a glimpse, and this isn't
like,
Darkseid's movie.
I don't need to see him kill anybody to show how powerful he is. To
I
be
need
honest,
it.
Yeah.
you know, that doesn't define how strong you are, because you know what, you could run somebody over with a car. That doesn't mean that you're the most powerful being
Darkseid
in the
seems
universe.
like Thanos'
So
comic weakness, which is that he just has to lose because subconsciously he doesn't believe he deserves to win. I feel like that's the Darkseid we got in this movie because he does some bumbling
I
stuff.
didn't get that.
I
at
wanted to
all.
say he does some effing bumbling stuff in this movie, but you know what my biggest gripe is? I'm gonna say it. How on earth, literally, do you go to Earth and then you're searching for the anti-life equation for literally your entire existence, which is thousands of years long? You don't realize that the anti-life equation is on Earth, and then when Steppenwolf finds the anti-life equation on Earth later, we find out that everybody, not just Darkseid, but everybody in his crew forgot where Earth is. Are you kidding me? That is like Game of Thrones. No. To me, that's like
Not
Game
really,
of
though.
Thrones when Khaleesi freaking forgot that it was a fleet with freaking gigantic arrows that could shoot down her dragons. It was a moment where it's like
But
forgot
you
for no
forget.
reason other than to move the story forward. I hated that.
No. I'm gonna disagree with that because there is literally a point in the movie where he says, you know what, they use, remember what the mother boxes are, and AJ had to remind me of this while we were watching it, because you know
Yes.
what, I asked the same question. I said, how in the world is he, being here already, not remember how to get here? And I don't think it's the matter of how he can't get back there. I think it's a method in how he gets there. Remember, it's not like he's next door, like he's sitting in Titan and whatnot, which is within the same universe. He literally says that he's conquered hundreds and thousands
Doesn't
of
forget
universes.
one time.
And you gotta, no, but wait,
Remember?
let me finish what I was saying. Remember what the mother boxes are. They really are boom tubes. They are capable of interstellar travel instantly. And there is a point in the movie where it says, you know what? If we can't get there, we're going to have to do this the old fashioned way. Get the fleet ready. He knows where it is. It's just, you know what? There's no consequence to get there. If you have the mother boxes, you can get there like this.
But then in the thousands of years that have passed since now and then, the only place where you have lost a battle, the place where one of your ultimate weapons still exists, the place where Superman was not for thousands of those years. Who was around to prevent him from going back to Earth and getting the mother boxes? Who?
Well, the gods.
Yeah,
For one.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay.
you do have the
You
Lantern
had the
Corps.
Green Lantern Corps who did show up.
You have the Themyscirans.
Yeah.
You still have the
Okay.
realm of men. You
That's a
have
bad
the
point.
Well,
Atlanteans.
the
All right, I
realm of
understand that,
men
but still.
inconsequential.
You have an entire galaxy.
It's not that he forgot. It's more so he didn't even know the anti-life equation was
No, I
there
know.
at the time. It took Steppenwolf to
But-
find out.
But wouldn't he want
like,
to somehow avenge
at the same time, it
his loss after all this time?
But that's the Darkseid's not petty like that. It's when
Thank
he's
you.
presented with the opportunity. Hey, it turns out that the planet that kind of dissed you all those centuries back. Hey, they have the anti-life equation,
he's-
and then that's where it gets.
He's
more
like a
personal.
dog with a bone. You know, everything else doesn't matter. I just want the anti-life equation. If I lose here, screw it. There's nothing here for me to really bother with.
That's exactly
If
it.
I do find the anti-life equation, you know what? I'm laser focused on that. He's a dog with a bone. That's all.
I do have a quick point though. Like, okay, so he didn't realize that the anti-life equation was there, but he loses the mother boxes and never goes back to try to
What
get
do
them
the
back.
mother
That's
boxes do? The mother boxes, all they do is they just create. What they do
they
is
make conquest easy.
Yes, but
right. But he's doing fine on his own. The mother
Not e-
boxes is just like topping on the cake.
they also have
Yeah,
like
but
an
it's a hell of a
infinite
freaking
numbers
topping.
of those. Mother boxes are actually, if you're going by,
Oh, they do.
if you're going by the comic book accurate sense, mother boxes are
So why didn't he
commonplace.
bring him to Earth then?
Oh, really?
They're
And
like
destroy it.
what mother boxes are. They're basically like
They're like the thing in Man of Steel.
Mm.
They're world builders and world
they're
destroyers.
new god iPhones. That's
So
what
why
they
didn't he
really
bring
are.
some? Why did he need the ones that were on Earth?
Well,
Because-
they're right then. If
but
he doesn't know that the anti-life equation is there, then to him that's
It's not
just
e-
like, oh, I lost an iPhone. Like
Who cares?
I don't need that planet. There's
Well, then
nothing there for me.
why
Like,
is
And then it's not
Steppenwolf
even
going
that.
to
and if he's
them then if they're that
Why-
common and they're unnecessary? See, it just breaks down when you start to reason it out. It all breaks down. Then it makes Steppenwolf's plot completely useless because he could have just brought another 3 set of
But
iPhones
Steppenwolf,
and destroyed the Earth
Steppenwolf, all he's doing is trying to redeem himself in Darkseid's view.
by getting something
So
that Darkseid
yeah,
doesn't
you know
want
what? Hey,
or need. I mean, this isn't a comic accurate
but
thing.
he's
The movie's
conquering.
probably
He's
different.
conquering planets.
No,
So this is kind of like a tribute to Darkseid. Look, I've conquered this planet
And I'll
in
make-
your honor. That's what Steppenwolf
Make
is
one
really
other
really doing
point
at
too,
this point.
because it's true that you guys said, there were a lot of people that could possibly defend Earth besides Superman. However, this is something that I think about. We need to know where the Green Lanterns are, because the guy that wrecked Uxas, Darkseid, in the past died in like the 1920s. Ares is dead. Like, maybe he doesn't know that, but I don't know.
possible.
To me, it's all flimsy. It all falls
you know what?
apart in the end. And I know that this is Darkseid in the
Because
comics,
they-
but Darkseid in the comics is more compelling.
Snyder did want to put in Jon Stewart in this film, and he was categorically
Oh,
told no, and that's why we have Martian
which was
Manhunter instead,
dumb.
because that character should have
Huge
been
waste of
Jon
time.
Stewart.
That's the last thing that I'll say. Martian Manhunter
Yeah.
was a gigantic waste of time. Why did he say that the world needs Lois and then do nothing? He did nothing in this movie. He just showed up. He could have been set up better. He was
Right.
I mean, again, like you have to take this from the point, right? But you got to take this from the point of view of like what this was supposed to be at the time, which was the setup for the rest of the movies. You can't look at this as like you can't look at this as like the plate that has every single item that you want to eat in
sensical
one
character
sitting.
motivations if you're going to put Martian Manhunter.
You would have
But you don't-
had
you
that
don't-
in the
you-
second and the third movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't need to have every single character's entire
not
arc
the
in
whole
every
arc,
single
but like better motivation
in one
Like,
film.
what
Well,
does
I mean,
he
but, like-
understand about Lois? Could we get a little bit more of that? Why is that needed? Does he know a little bit?
Why
Well,
what do we what do we get? Hold on. What do we get? What do we get from Nick Fury's first
I was
introduction
about to go
as
there also.
Internet?
What about
Like
Winter Soldier?
it's one scene, like
Winter Soldier, it took a number of movies to get to the point where it's like, okay, we just found out that everything was building to him, Tony Stark realizing that Winter Soldier was the one that killed his parents. It didn't
yeah,
happen immediately. It took a number of movies to get to that point. The same thing would have happened here.
yeah, this
Lois's
is
importance would have grown with each movie
yeah, no, but
going
it's not about
forward.
Lois' importance. It's about what Martian
the thing,
Manhunter's motivations are. Every character needs at least a motivation.
right? But we weren't
We,
supposed
you
to
don't need
know
his
that
full
here.
motivations, but we needed more than we got.
We don't need any motivation. We just need to know that he's in the film, and then it like as
And
an egg for like the next film.
Yeah, his part is not important in this film.
Oh, and hold on, and actually, wrong. We do get his motivation, right? Because at the end, when he actually goes and introduces himself officially as Martian Manhunter, he says like, "I realize that I do have a stake in this world,
Oh,
and I
that's
want to
true.
help
Right now.
protect it."
But he's
We
not
just don't know what that stake is,
he's
but
not
he
important
has a
It's just
stake and he wants to protect it.
at this point. He's not really
And I
important.
mean, also, it's kind of silly that he
He'll-
turned
his-
into Martian Manhunter in the hallway after he talked to Lois. I know it was meant to reveal that, but he could.
Yeah,
It would have
I
been
know.
cooler. It would have been cooler
That
if
was
he
a
just
little weird.
like said that to Lois, and we were all like, "What the heck is this guy talking about? Wasn't this the guy that like hated Superman and then became his friend in Man of Steel?" And then at the end of the movie, he like flies down as General Swanwick and like turns into Martian Manhunter. That would have been cooler. I think it was again kind of like.
Nah, it's for the oh crap moment, because I'm trying to also now censor myself.
Oh, snap.
Uh, it's for the oh crap moment that we got in the middle of the film and not just wait till the very end. It was very well placed, I think, because I remember sending a message in the group chat. I was like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap,
I was
like, and it
wondering
was
what
that
that was.
moment. It was that moment. I was like, oh my god, like this is why I hate any kind of spoilers, because it ruins that emotion that I'm never ever gonna have again, no matter how many times I see the film.
All right.
So I think that like we're at the end. We Eli was absolutely correct, and we did not hit an hour and 15 minutes, which was the intention. But I think that it's warranted to ask, where do we go from here? And I want to kind of close the way that we began, just like a quick little roundtable of, where do you think that we go? Do we actually have an expansion to the Snyderverse? Does Snyder come back?
And
And do you think that he can be compelled to come back, or that the industry could be compelled? If we can compel the industry, I'll start with my point then, because I see you guys shaking your heads and everything and already saying no in my ear and all that. I think that he could be compelled. I don't think that there's any way that WB can come back from this when all this was all set up, because every single thing that comes out that's not Snyderverse is automatically starting from, like 4 or 5 rungs underwater on a ladder, right? So I think that, and I think that like with huge support from the fan base, I think that you can compel Snyder and WB to come back. If we can compel, I will get to everyone. We're gonna do this turn by turn. Okay, you guys, I see. For those of you guys that are just listening, I see Walter shaking his head. Jose has his hands up. I know Eli wants in, but we're gonna get around the table one at a time without interruptions. But again, I think that we can compel Zack Snyder to come back and finish the vision, at least not from a directorial standpoint, but maybe from a production standpoint. Be an executive producer, be a consultant on the rest of the universe, and really flesh this out, because we have enough meat on the bones to still keep coming back. Okay, so with that said, before I get digitally jumped by the crew, who
May I?
is next?
Here's my thoughts on that.
Okay.
I don't think you can compel Zack Snyder to come back because of how dirty WB did him in the beginning. Basically, like to do that to a man when he has this tragedy come about, I think is something that broke his long-term relationship with them, because I think that this movie wasn't about reestablishing that relationship or continuing it. I simply think that this was vindication for him. Like, hey, my Justice League was not this piece of trash. that they released. I think this was vindication, but I do think he's done. I don't think he's going to go back after WB did such horrible things to him. And the reason he quit, beyond just the fact that he received a personal tragedy, from what I understand in interviews, he said that he just didn't have the emotional energy to deal with both the tragedy and fighting WB at every stinking turn to get the movies that he wanted. So for that reason, I don't think they're going to do it, because even on this movie, it doesn't show as much, but there were some disagreements on the Snyder cut still, even after all of this. So I don't think the relationship is going to continue because of that.
Right.
I think it's too personal.
Well, and yeah, I totally agree with that. And I also have two other reasons why they shouldn't. And I know that
I think they should.
I know that
I just
we
want to
all
clarify
want
that. I think they
I'm-
should. I just don't think he will.
You think
I think that they should. I think that
Oh,
Zack
okay.
Snyder, I'm not saying he should swallow his pride. I think it'd be awesome, because I think that the movie, even though I didn't love it, sets things up beautifully for future movies. But I just wanted to clarify. I think they should, but I don't think he will. Go ahead, Eli.
I think that they shouldn't, but I know that I want it. I want the Snyderverse, but at the same time, I know it's wrong, because first off, number one, you're enabling fans that way, and you do that, and you start up a whole
That is
entire.
a good point.
You start up a whole
Yeah.
entire.
Dang, Eli,
Yeah, and second of
hitting
all,
me with maturity.
second of all, I just don't. You're undoing work at that point too, because all of the work that they've done for Aquaman, Wonder Woman 84, which we all know sucked, but it still deserves it. There's credit where credit is due. It still deserves to be. It shouldn't be erased.
I don't think you undo it
So,
necessarily.
you have
but
that.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I don't think you
I'm
have
down
to.
it.
If you start up a new universe, I mean, there is a way for you, but it's practically impossible, because you have the second movie, which yes you can change, but half of the characters die in that
In which movie? Wonder Woman? No.
The second Justice
Oh,
League
yeah,
movie.
yeah. But that's
Yeah,
after
a lot of
all of
people
these
die in
movies.
that movie.
That's after all of the movies that came out in
And-
DC. And remember what Walt said. Just want to point
Well,
this out. Remember that
yeah, but-
Aquaman and Wonder Woman, the first movies, they still consulted Zack Snyder. So they probably still had in mind that, hey, maybe if they ever do this
Yeah.
again and they continue this, we have some cohesion with the story that he wanted to tell. I don't think you destroy it entirely.
but it's just no. I don't think that it's a good idea, because that could start a lot of conflict, especially with people who probably did like. I mean, I know that there's people who like Wonder Woman 84, such as Wolfie here, right?
Called out.
Okay, I'm not gonna.
I'm not saying that it's. I didn't
Called
say that it's a
out.
freaking awesome
Okay,
movie.
yeah.
I just don't think that it's as bad as
Yeah, I'm on the same.
it's being
boat here,
portrayed by
honestly.
on what boat?
On your boat.
On my boat or
Your
Walt's boat?
boat.
All right.
On the
I
boat
just
that's
I don't think
sinking?
that it was a great movie. I don't think that it was a bad
Don't
movie. I don't
float.
think that it was terrible. You know what I mean? I think it was a specific style portrayed of film that bridges the gap, to this film. I think that's why I feel like it was great that it came out then and we saw Snyder Cut now. Personally, sorry, I'm chiming in on this, but it's just I really think that it wasn't that bad. And it's like I feel like Walt is saying that it's as bad. His reaction to WWE 84 is the same reaction to the Whedon cut.
Pretty much.
That's
Two-
crazy.
two-
Oh my
two
god.
movies that I'm never going to return back. You know what? I'm a completionist when it comes to movie buying. I'm on the fence on whether I should buy WW84. And I'll buy any movie just to complete my collection.
I think
am literally I've been checking iTunes because I refuse to pay for it at $19.99. I'll pay for it when it goes down to maybe like $4.99, and then I'll still have
Bargain
some
basement.
trepidation in doing that, because I just there's nothing compelling about. There's nothing that I find anywhere remotely rewarding about WW84 except the ending. Because it was
I
over
think
at that point.
I think that this is going to be one of those solo film moments for you, which I don't think that this is better than Solo in any way, but I think that like after some time and you revisit it, I think that you might find it a little
I
bit
will
more
not.
enjoyable.
I think with Solo, it's a different.
Never say never.
not.
Never
Solo
say
is a
never.
different story because Solo for me was a movie that I didn't think needed to be done, and I didn't hate it. I just thought it was okay at the time. Revisiting it, I see its its
Charm.
redeeming qualities, right? I'm not gonna feel the same way about WW84. There was way too many problems with that. I didn't like the way they treated Max Lord. I didn't like the way they treated uh Steve Trevor. I didn't like the way they treated Wonder Woman. I thought Wonder Woman was poorly portrayed in that. I think they made her into this sniveling little woman that needed a man to define her. That's not what Wonder Woman is. There is no
Bingo.
way that I look at this movie and say, you know what?
Yeah, let's not let's not
Wait,
make this a Wonder Woman
Because you know I'm
for
right.
review.
You know.
You're not, but we're not gonna do this.
To Eli, back to
Back
Eli.
to Eli. Back to Eli.
Back
Eli's
to
got to
you.
finish it up.
last and final thing, which I know some you might not agree with, but I honestly think it's too early. They already said that they're killing off a bunch of characters, right? I think that it would be too early, and I know you can fit some movies in there, but that's not enough. You see what Avengers did, and I'm not saying I don't want it to be like Avengers and the MCU, because I think that be a complete and utter failure on.
Well, they're going to kill off
Yeah.
characters, but they
But-
were going to bring all of them back. Because remember, the storyline was
Yeah,
Flash
but-
going back in time and reversing everything like Flashpoint. So they would have killed characters for like one movie.
Yeah, but you-
maybe. But except for Batman. Batman would have
Yeah,
died
but you
forever.
also want. Yeah, but you
And
want to
Darkseid.
create that impact for when they die. You want to have some. At least you should be able to feel emotion when that happens. So if they do it too early, it's just gonna be like, oh, they killed them. What? Okay, and then now they're back. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter at this point.
Well,
Like
it is
Superman?
comics, so you know.
I know, but
Yeah, with comics, everybody dies, everybody comes back.
Superman should have come back in the second movie.
What was the question again?
Where do we go from
I
here?
think it's AJ's turn.
Yeah. So
Oh, where do we go from here? Okay, AJ
yeah.
can go. I'll go
Um,
last.
I hinted at the very beginning of this podcast that while I really did thoroughly enjoy this movie, there was one thing that would ever truly prevent me from fully realizing
Aw,
and
snap.
enjoying it. And it's the fact that we will not get any more of this. Like it's such a damn
And we
shame.
didn't get
Like,
enough before it, too. There's no before and no after, and that bothers
Yes.
me a lot. I think I agree with you to that point.
Yeah, that's
There's
weird.
not enough before, and there will never be an after, most likely. That's really sad. Because there was potential in it.
I never say never. We said never when it came to the Snyder
But
cut.
I
Look
most
what
kind of
happened.
agree
Just
with
never say
Eli
never.
though that
in my opinion.
it wouldn't be a good idea to revamp it like that. Like it's one thing if you move in a narrative direction towards rebooting it, but to just completely say, not even narratively, okay, well, all this other stuff you guys did, the work you put into that, just whatever, bro. And just come out with, okay, so we're going to move forward with what you did. It'd be the same thing as, hey, J.J. Abrams started this in Force Awakens. Not that what Rian Johnson did was horrible, but he took Last Jedi into some interesting directions, only to have the guy who originally did it like, oh,
That's-
well, screw you.
that's a
This
good
was my
point.
story to begin with.
That's a really
It'd be
good point.
akin to that. And, it's as much as we didn't like J.J. Abrams for the last movie, it's still
It is what
messed
it
up, like, yeah, that's basically just, I guess, my 2 cents on that or whatever. But like, we would have needed to do this from a narrative standpoint.
I mean, I look. I just want to one last thing. If there's one thing that Warner Brothers is most motivated by, which is every corporation is motivated by, it's money, and money always talks. When they see the numbers that the Snyder Cut's gonna do, along with the reviews, they're gonna think twice about like whether they're gonna continue it or not. I guarantee you that they're gonna at least have a conversation about doing it.
But
Zack
then that's-
Snyder won't do
But
it,
then
though.
that's going to set
I'm not
a
talking
trend.
about WB.
as much as
We don't know that.
We do
don't know that.
As-
though.
We don't
Hold
know
up,
that
hold up.
because what they tell us in the public square isn't always
think
what
Zack
they
Snyder's
actually
motivated-
mean.
No,
Zack
no,
Snyder's
Or-
not
I'm not
motivated
or
by
something
money here,
that-
though.
I'm
He
not.
didn't get paid for this.
No, Zack Snyder isn't. But if WB says like, you know what, Zack Snyder, we're wrong, mea culpa, you can go ahead and have like final cut decision and everything as long as you give us what we want,
Okay, but not even.
which is
But
extension of the
but that
Snyderverse.
was
You think that Zack Snyder won't at least consider
No,
it?
but that's what happened with the Snyder cut, and they still had pushback against him.
Yeah,
But I
they
mean,
still tried to stop a lot of things.
again, not even that. Like, okay, so it worked with the Snyder Cut. Awesome. Now you're gonna push it to restore the Snyderverse. Okay, kind of awesome if we do get it. But then, what's to stop you to do it from everything else?
Yeah, because you
That's
already
gonna set a trend that, okay, what if because someone hates the prequels, hey,
Yeah.
let's do a redo of the prequels.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Where
I
does it
agree
stop?
to an
Like the
extent, except for the fact that I think that this rehashing movement is already here. I don't think you're going to stop it, and I don't think doing it again is going to add to it, or I don't think creating the Snyderverse is going to add to it.
And-
We saw it in Sonic the Hedgehog. That was actually one of the first things that were first places where you saw this. Besides the Snyder Cut, fans have power now,
Yeah.
and they will get changes more often than they ever did before. They will, or they'll get director's cuts.
and
Yeah, I
you know
think
what?
so too.
I want to add on to what Andre said, AJ, because I mean, you already look at some of the stuff they've already changed. You had
Right.
they pushed Zack Snyder out of his movie. Who thinks? I mean, who's not to say that that's going to happen again if you enable them?
No, but well, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. To begin with, they didn't even want Zack Snyder in the universe, and that was a driving force behind getting him out to begin with.
It's just going to be.
I mean,
utterly
look, I get what you're saying that maybe it won't, I guess, further escalate it, but things like the Sonic, the design, that's a very minuscule thing. You're talking about systematically rewriting stories. And that I think
and
that's not a good look in my opinion. As much as some properties are better than others and maybe this person did it better, you should never go back and just completely uh dismember someone else's work,
and
basically.
yeah, and last thing I just want to say, because I remember Wolfie was saying something about WB and money thing. I as much as WB is what they are, what they are, like with like they're like DB Legends. They're money grubbers.
Had to bring Dragon Ball into this, right?
Yeah, but my point is that they at least they know the cost of doing something like that.
Okay, here's the biggest question that I have, which I really don't understand,
Okay.
is why WB even entertained the fact of doing a Snyder cut in the first place. Because you know what? There's two ways this could have gone. And the one way is that it absolutely sucked. And you know what? Then everybody would have been like, you know what? I'm done with DC to begin with, after all, because Whedon couldn't do it and Snyder couldn't do it. It's horrendous, right? The other point that I have is that is what we're getting now. This is a no-win situation for WB, because now what you've done is that you put out Snyder's original vision for the Justice League, and guess what? It turned out to be fantastic. Everywhere that I see, everybody, there's a hashtag going that I think we even put on Instagram. Restore the Snyderverse. You've gotten now into a point where what's going on is that you have an original, quote unquote, canonical film in Whedon's Justice League. Not 5 years later, you bring back the exact same movie in a totally different iteration by the person that was supposed to do it in the first place. And like I said, guess what? It turned out to be fantastic. We're never going to see the end of this thing. And kind of to the kids' points, not only have we moved, we're already at least 4 or 5 films past Justice League. We've already done Wonder Woman 84. We're about to get the Suicide Squad. We've got what's the other one? Aquaman, Shazam, Wonder Woman. You've also got what's the other one? Shazam 2 with Black Adam, or Black Adam get his own
Black
things.
Adam's getting
You
his
already
own
have
too.
all these things in the pipeline that do not connect to the Snyderverse cut of Justice League. You're basically saying that anything that's going forward, Flash being another movie, anything that's coming forward really doesn't count. You also have the Joker movie. You also have the Batman movie that still hasn't come out. That how do these things connect? You also know that Affleck is not coming back. You know that there's this question on whether Cavill is coming back. We don't know if he is. We don't know if he's not. We're still up in the air with that thing. There are so many things that have to fall into place to make the Snyderverse happen again. I think we are so far beyond where we could go back, aside from a flashpoint. But then again, you've just made all these movies that came afterwards mean absolutely nothing. And like I said, I still don't understand why WB went ahead with the Snyder Cut. I'm glad that they did.
I do,
but I don't understand it because they put themselves in a really impossible position
I
here.
don't agree.
No. Here's the thing, and Jose will probably agree with me. The reason they did this is because it makes good business sense. Okay, why? Because if they release it and it doesn't do well, okay, they already said it's not canon. If they release and it does amazing, now they have their
And
demand
all the more reason for
created.
that. Hold
For
on.
what?
Okay, and that is why I think that they
Let
can
me
do it.
piggyback. Let me
Is Snyder
piggyback on
coming
that.
back?
You know why they did this and why this is a good business decision and why it didn't matter either way? Yes.
HBOMax?
Yes. HBOMax. This will draw subscribers to HBOMax.
Yeah.
I'm guarantee it already did.
People that had HBO were going to get
No,
HBO.
I don't agree.
You know what?
I don't agree.
And the thing about it,
I'm
is
sure that
if you
this will
really
increase
wanted to maximize this, you throw this into the
can.
theaters, right? And I know we're in a pandemic, but you know what? Things are opening up.
Here's the other thing.
Huh?
This one is definitely not a
Yeah,
theater.
nobody's going to watch this film.
There's no way. You can't even cut this into two pieces,
Which is
because
why
it really
it's on
doesn't work that way.
HBO Max.
Because
That's why it makes
honestly,
sense that it's there.
Right.
the last 2 hours, move at a breakneck pace. The first 2 hours is setting up everything. You cut this in half, it doesn't work as a theatrical release. So again, all you do is open yourself up to scrutiny with this. You really,
I don't
really
think so
do.
either. And I was going to make that point also. You know why they don't do that? Because they're already embracing Elseworlds. They're doing it in Joker. They're doing it in Batman. They're already embracing the fact that there's more than one comic universe. They can very easily slide Snyder back in if they really choose to, and still have their Elseworlds stories.
That still begs the biggest problem, which is enabling fans. You're still doing it by that, even if it's Elseworld, because you're giving them what they want. I think it's too late for that, though. And I know that sounds unfair.
I think it's too late. I think
that's why they shouldn't have made.
I think the ship has sailed.
Yeah, but this goes a long way to really, really embolden fans and say, you know what, this is what we want. We're not gonna stop. It was one thing to say, you know what, let's change Sonic's face. It's another thing to say, you know what, we're taking an entire movie and reshaping it to a completely different movie. Those are two separate things.
Yeah.
You've gone from, well, I don't like the way this guy looks, to I don't like this movie, period. You've got to redo it. That is a huge step. And WB did not have to do this.
Hold up.
That's the thing.
And I remember we were speaking about fans' volatility, especially with Star Wars and stuff. I mean, you best be expecting that for
now these people are, the fans are emboldened, good, bad, or indifferent. They're gonna cry out and say, you know what? Well, if it happened for Snyder, we can do it for everything else.
Been doing that.
Yeah, and then it's just
this is a step. This is a step that did not need to be taken. You're talking about small little changes here and there. This is a huge, huge shift in how you make movies nowadays. This one thing changes the landscape completely.
I think that it has the potential to. However, I think that you can temper it. right? Like this is
How?
just the way that things are now,
How?
right? So like for example, you don't have to necessarily have Snyder come back, but if you already have the treatment done for Justice League 2, and you already have essentially the story outline for Justice League 3, you can bring Zack Snyder, maybe make some sort of appeal to bring him back as a producer to oversee it and not necessarily direct it and all that stuff, so that some sort of the vision can be brought. You will give the fans a piece of what they want, just not exactly what
Nah.
they're asking for, and that's how you temper it. I think
Snyder
that's how you temper it.
Snyder doesn't have a
Yeah.
dog in this
He's
fight,
like
really.
he's like
You know,
We don't
he's
listen. We don't
already
know.
he's already
We don't know.
listen. He already had to go through it when he was making BVS and Justice League, right? He walked away from it. They brought him back to do Snyder Cut. They still were fighting on him. The whole thing, it's not just the Green Lantern thing. It was the Lois pregnancy that they did not want in the film. They really did not want.
Yeah.
Even
Dumb.
when they gave him the green light
What a
to say,
stupid
you know
thing.
what, here's your movie, do what you want, they still gave him terms. Why would you want to go back to that? Even after you have the fans that are crying out saying, you know what, let's get this done. They relented, but yet they still could not relinquish 100%
Yeah.
control to Snyder. They still had to interfere in some way
And
or
if you're
another.
Snyder, have you guys ever seen that episode of The Simpsons where Bart is like a master at that boxing video game and Homer tries to beat him? And then like at the very end, when Homer's about to beat him, he just pulls the plug and basically says he never lost. He went out on top.
I retire.
That's Snyder now. He's
Yeah,
going
he
out
retired.
on top. The fans are in love
Yeah.
with this version, even though I don't necessarily agree it's the greatest thing. Look at Metacritic. It's like 90 plus right now. Even the Metacritic like critic rating is like 74. So he won.
He's got a new film
Why
coming out on
fail
Netflix.
at this point? Why give yourself the opportunity to fail? Your vision is clearly the one that everybody would have wanted.
Yeah, he's moved on. He's got a new film coming out on
Yeah, but
Netflix,
that's
Army of the Dead, which is going to come out within the next couple of months. He's moved on. He gave WB the ultimate the bird, basically. He said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you how wrong you are, and then I'm retiring. I'm done. I'm done with you guys.
I don't know. I'm calling it right now. Before we close up, I'm calling it right now. I think that Snyder comes back in some form, as a consultant, as a producer, some form. I don't see WB leaving money
Zack
on the
Snyder
table.
doing it,
Period.
so I'm putting
WB
50
is
bucks
not
on
gonna
it.
leave.
I'll put money on it. I'll put $50 on it.
You see
Zack
what?
Snyder
You
will leave
happy?
that money on the table, and we'll never see the
That-
Snyderverse again.
Yeah. He's
No.
gonna
I
come
understand.
back.
I'm talking about WB. WB will
Oh,
not
of
leave the
course.
money on the table. WB will do something to bring the Snyderverse back in some form. That's I'll
But
put
you
50
need
bucks on
Zack
that.
without
Snyder,
Snyder,
though.
though.
they can't.
It's going to be without.
Right. It doesn't need to be from a
No,
director
I don't
standpoint.
think he'll
It
be
can be a
involved in
consultant.
any
He could be a
capacity.
producer.
That's my
Here's
point.
the thing.
I don't think he'll be a
I
producer.
think that you
I don't
can.
think
I think that he
won't be
will.
a Kevin Feige.
I
won't
think
be
that he
anything.
will.
But I'll put money on
Wolfie,
it.
let
I'll
me
put
let me
money
put it
on
to you this way. Let me my final point. Name me another director has the same visual style as Zack Snyder that can continue
It
the
doesn't. It
Snyderverse
doesn't
in this
have
way.
to be the same exact
But
visual
that's a
style. It
big
doesn't have to be the same visual style.
piece of the
It's big. I
Snyderverse.
understand that.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
understand that. Maybe as fans, we don't get every single thing that we want, but we may get some of it. We may get the
I-
rest of the
I
story.
disagree. I don't think
And that's
I don't
it.
think Snyder ever comes back to DC.
Yeah, but
Not with the current management at
bucks.
WB.
Saying it now. 50
Yeah.
bucks.
All right,
never
we'll
comes
see.
back.
Anyway,
saying-
let's Eli's final
Very-
point, and then we'll
very
close it up.
last
Okay.
thing. Let's entertain the fact that WB enables fans, and it works. If Zack Snyder walks away, that love turns to hate, and then you start a whole other riot. It's just a chain of events that you can't undo. Everything's gonna go wrong from here on out, unless they find
WB
some way.
opened the door. They really
They
did.
screwed it
Like,
up.
Nah, I
I'm
don't agree.
To
But
quote, what is it? Lex Luthor, you cannot. The bell has rung.
It can't be unwrong.
So yeah, it can't be unrung.
anyways, with that said, that is our thoughts, our review, our recap of Justice League, the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, rather. That's the proper title. As you can see, I think that we all clearly agree that it was the right version of the film that should have been put out 5 years ago. But we don't necessarily agree on the future, at least not from my standpoint. I hope that you guys enjoy the show. Again, please like, rate, share, and subscribe. As I always do, and the rest of the crew does, we always appreciate you guys tuning in and listening all the way to the end.
Word.
And if you do and you enjoyed the episode so far, and you know another person that has just seen the Zack Snyder's Justice League and kind of wants to geek out all over it, please send this episode over to them so that they can, chime in and get to know us a little bit if they haven't followed us yet.
Please, baby,
With that being said, and with that being said, I'll throw it to Jose for.
Oh, yeah. This is the part where I tell our fans to stay geeky. Please, guys, stay geeky.
Bro, this episode was deep AF.
Oh,
are we gonna do we need to bleep me out, or are we gonna cut that whole part?
Rated R gets exactly one curse word, and then the second one is what turns it into rated R.
Well, we do need to bleep it out because this is a family friendly show. Otherwise, it'll get marked as explicit.
F that.
When we upload it.